All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics of Local America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. Y'all know if it's Friday, y'all know it's time for All Politics of Local.
And
But
you don't
more
want to work for that
importantly,
company
you
anyway.
know that if it is the first Friday of the month, y'all know it's time for the Payne Report with our beloved brother, the Congressman Donald M. Payne Jr. So we want to welcome y'all to the show. However, coming up first is going to be, you want to give that introduction, Zaid?
Just the run of the show is this. We will first have Crystal Charley, uh, beloved, highly regarded activist of many hats. But she's going to be talking to us today as a doula, an advocate for Black maternal health, because it is a very dangerous space that needs a whole lot of support that is not getting enough of. After Crystal, we will have our beloved local professor, people scholar Akil Khalfani of the Africana Institute at Essex County College, who has an exhibit called Bound No More, where they're turning that space into a slave ship to celebrate the resistance of our ancestors, the resilience of our ancestors enduring the horrors of the slave trade. After that, Hakim Green is going to join us. He hasn't been with us in a little while. He's got a special guest, young hip hop artist, Unicorn 151, also known as Killer Kirk, is going to be with him. And of course, we will have the Pain Report to round out the night at 8 p.m. So we got a full show, full tilt, loaded content, and we're ready to ride.
That's right, my brother. So we want to go on and welcome our sister Crystal to the show.
Good
She is
evening,
trying to
peace and
chime
blessings.
in. As
Yes,
she's
can you hear
chiming
me?
in, Crystal wears a lot of hats. There she is. There she is. Just as regal as ever. There, as she's chiming
Great.
in, Crystal wears so many hats, and probably best known now for her work with Salvation and Social Justice. Been with the NAACP New Jersey State Conference probably almost all of her adult life and change, right? Uh, but she's with us this evening to talk about a really challenging subject that we have touched on these airwaves before with Assemblywoman Spite some time ago, but it merits another look. Several months ago, a world class, uh, beautiful black athlete, Bowie, went out of here suddenly by virtue of some, and I'm just putting this mildly, and I'm going to let the expert really break this down for us. Uh, Complications at childbirth. How does that happen? Not long before that, the great Serena Williams herself had some troubling complications that put her in a difficult space at childbirth, and no black athlete was more celebrated and more resourced than Serena Williams. And it just raises a lot of questions that have been out here for a minute that simply is not getting enough attention. In Tori's story, I mean, we lost this young woman. She was only 32 years old, right? And in the and an acts and a world class athlete. So how is it that we lose someone like that delivering a child? So the question of the challenges of Black maternal health is what we're going to be talking about, and I'm very pleased to have Crystal with us here. Crystal, in addition to being an advocate for what's important in Black maternal health, is also a certified doula, a tradition, a childbirthing tradition that goes back with our ancestors for a long time, that is going through a necessary resurgence, I would say, by virtue of these challenges that our community is facing as our daughters and mothers are facing these racist challenges at, at childbirth. Crystal, you all
Thank
right?
you.
You
I
ready?
am. I'm ready to go.
I
Let's
know
talk
you
about
are. I know you are, daughter. I know you are. Why don't you take a minute, take a beat, and unpack some of what I just said around Tori's story, and some of the others, and then let's take a dive. Because I mean, this is an educational space. Now you in you're doing some groundbreaking things that even still a lot of our community is still like in the dark about just what that means. So let's take our time and unpack some of that. When you heard and learned about Tori's passing, what say you? I know a lot has to run through you. You had a tough childbirth, right? I mean,
yes. Hmm.
mm, we can go on this
Yeah.
for a long time, but with the time that we have this evening, uh, what was your reaction, and what should have been our collective reaction to what happened with this beautiful daughter?
Our collective reaction. Well, first of all, let me say my personal reaction was just, it was mortifying. Um, and unfortunately, as someone who's always in this space, I just know it still wasn't as shocking as it should have been, which is really sad, right? Because I know the numbers that are out there. I know the statistics. I know what we're up against as Black women birthing, right? And so, you know, to me, it helped to ring an alarm for those who just may not have been as in tune to what's going on, because she was a national figure. And like you said, unlike Serena, we actually lost her. Yeah, she was only 32 years young. Um, and so many things can be preventable. I won't take time to specifically break down everything about her case, and I don't ever overstep my boundaries as a doula. I'm not clinical, but what I do know when it comes down to the care, right, that Black women and Black birthing people are receiving in healthcare settings, it's inadequate. It's racist. It can be demeaning. It can be dismissive, and those are very, very dangerous components that end up in situations where we're seeing high maternal mortality, we're seeing high maternal morbidity. So as a collective, it should just be a reminder to us that this is something that is touching all of us as Black women and Black birthing people. And most importantly, it's irrespective of your socioeconomic status, right? This is not a poor woman's issue or someone who is socioeconomically insecure. It's not only about access. Let me be clear, not only about access to resources, because that certainly is a major factor. But when you look at the numbers of Black mothers who are actually dying, the most represented number of Black maternal mortality numbers are women of higher socioeconomic statuses and higher levels of education, right? And so, but of course, when you look at the makeup of the entire number, when you look at maternal mortality, Black women, Black birthing people disproportionately are represented there across the socioeconomic stratosphere, right? And the same thing happens for the morbidity rates, the near misses. Once again, we're overly represented there as well. And when you talk about Serena Williams, her first pregnancy, we were pregnant at the same time. And, when you look at, she is the GOAT, like you said, who else better resource and far better shape than most of us, man or woman, right? When it came down to her expressing, that she didn't feel right, she had these concerns, this and that, she was ignored. And so what is the common denominator between all of us? It's not our socioeconomic status. It's not our level of education, but it is the color of our skin, right? And so, in birthing spaces, and when I refer to birthing spaces, it's not relegated to labor and delivery only. I'm talking about when you're going to your prenatal appointments and the receptionist greets you in a way that is definitely the opposite of really the word greet, right? It's less hospitable. I've heard, stories of women being challenged on whether or not they were actually married. It's not the business of the person checking you in or not, and it shouldn't validate whether or not you get respectable care, right? These are things. It's on
That
all
was a
levels.
sub story. That was a sub story that ran through the media when Tori Bowie went out of here.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
for what?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Totally missed the question as to what happened and why that happened. But that was one of the sub stories.
And none of that
And
surprises
then
me.
it went away.
Mm-hmm. 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 That's because in this nation we just have there's a collective energy not to talk about race-based mistreatment, race-based degradation, race-based oppression, right? So all these things. And we always want to talk about some outside entity, things that make pretty much, make white folks comfortable. They feel better when they are doing things to help the poor, but they don't want to address the black, right? And so now we start picking people apart, and people who are always, who are actually victims of racial harms and injustice somehow always become the criminal. And we're criminalized for how we live, who we associate with, in her case, married or not, all these kinds of things. And it's structural racism in all levels of the healthcare. That has everything to do with your the I don't want to say social determinants of health, but more so the social constructs of health, right? About our what our environments look like. We know you can look at environmental justice and how that affects Black maternal health. You can look at education, how that affects Black maternal health. You can look at, obviously the healthcare system itself, right? All of these things factor in. And we have so much work to do here in New Jersey, right? We've talked about 2 national cases, but here in New Jersey is the 4th most dangerous state in the nation to give birth, right? We have more abysmal numbers in Black maternal health than some of your more oppressive reproductive states like Georgia, for instance. Our maternal mortality rates in New Jersey are worse. And this is a state that, that codified, the right
You're
to
talking
choose.
about the Garden State,
The Garden State.
the great progressive blue state.
Yes. Yes.
4th.
Yes.
That's some crazy stuff.
Yeah. And the latest maternal mortality review board. So nationally, even if you go back to just the year that, Serena's first pregnancy, around that time and up to more recent time, they were saying that 60% of maternal mortality is actually preventable.
Of course.
60% nationally, right? And then the most recent research and studies have shown that it's actually 80% nationally that were actually preventative. And when you hear about New Jersey's numbers alone, New Jersey specifically, maternal mortality rates that were preventable were 90%.
Damn. In human rights language, we call these excess deaths.
Yes.
Excess deaths. And excess deaths are preventable. But when systems allow them to happen, we need to be talking about it's violating people's human rights being violated, and in some cases, the very question of genocide. I'm gonna give you a name. I want you to educate the public on what this name means in the racist legacy of medical maltreatment of Black women in this walk. J. Marion Sims.
Oh, the nation's medical terrorist. So he is the one who they have. There are statues for this man, and he really destroyed.
Took one down in New York.
Homes. Say it again.
He took one down in New York.
Yes. Yes, I know.
Go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you, but you're doing all these mic droppers. I gotta just boom. Go ahead.
Yes, well, he was like I said, he's a medical terrorist. He used to experiment on Black wombs. He would go out to his slave quarters when he found himself having an idea, and he would perform these different procedures on Black bodies without anesthesia because he believed that Black people didn't feel pain. All those things are perpetuated things, and that's going back to what 1700s, early 1800s. But those are the same things that we're hearing in medical settings now, right? Why someone not being supported? These are the things they herald him as the father of obstetrics.
Gynecology, yes,
and gynecology, and so he literally had his own torture chamber, essentially, in his slave quarters that he would go out. I mean, wake him up in the middle of the night and lay him on the table and basically, mutilate and dismember and certainly maim and hurt black wombs. That was his entrance into this space. And for that, unfortunately, he's been revered. And even more unfortunate that to this day, some of those things are still being perpetuated in medical schools today. And so you have not only old school doctors who believe this, but then you're still bringing in a class of new school that believe these kind of things about Black bodies. And that perpetuates the harms and the dangers for us when we go into medical spaces, particularly birthing.
So now let's walk down some. That's one tradition. That's the racist tradition. But what about but let's walk down the other lane, because we need to also start talking about what we're gonna do and how we deal with it. Right.
Well,
go ahead. I was going to answer the question, but go ahead.
So, when we talk about the other tradition, we talk about the Black healing hands of birthing, right? And the traditions that came with us across the Middle Passage, right? And so we know that, even men like James Marion Sims were birthed by Black midwives. These birthing traditions came from Africa.
Wow.
They came with us, and they were passed down. And so Black women were not, Black midwives were not just birthing Black babies, they were birthing white babies. And so what happened, systematically, Black midwives were phased out due to the introduction of westernized obstetrics and gynecology, your James Marion Sims and the like. And so what they did was they started saying that the hands and the practices of the Black midwives weren't clean. And then you start going through these different measures of formalization by which they created to say that now the things that we've been doing for generations were inept. And so, what we know is that Black midwives weren't losing mothers at the rates that we see in modern obstetrics and gynecology. And out of the midwives, you also have the space of doulas, right? And they're not one the same. Some don't know that. Some people think we do the same thing, but we don't.
Folks don't know. Go ahead, break it down.
So midwives are clinical. They're the ones who can, they will perform vaginal and cervical exams and things like that. Doulas, we are, we're labor professionals. We're postpartum professionals, right? You'll hear different terms like full circle doula, full spectrum doulas, right? That means we've been trained to do all the above, from prenatal to postpartum. Some specialize in one or the other. Some are trained in all and do all. And like I said, some are trained in all and may only do one or two. But doulas provide, assistance in labor and delivery that is very focused on the birthing person. And we have a lot of natural techniques that support physiological birth, which is more in line with the model of care that midwives provide, right? We recognize in midwifery care, and doulas recognize, that birth is not an illness. It doesn't have to be a disability situation. And really, quite frankly, a woman's body knows what to do. A body naturally knows how to labor, naturally knows how to give birth. And we try to educate and support, birthing women and birthing folks into having those types of physiological births. Now, don't get me wrong, there will be occasions where, medically, situations like cesareans are needed, right? I had an emergency C-section, right? But what we're seeing when it comes down to, just to bring it right back to the maternal mortality, right, and even the near misses, is that far too often there's still a high rate of unmedically necessary C-sections. And so you start seeing these C-sections scheduled as a matter of convenience. And what people aren't realizing is that, just because birthing is something that happens and occurs every single day, every single minute, every single second. I mean, while we've been on, I couldn't even tell you the number of births that have literally occurred since we started this conversation tonight. But just because it happens that frequently, it doesn't mean that a cesarean is not a major surgery. It is a serious surgery. And when you open yourself up to that type of surgery, especially when it wasn't medically necessary, you are definitely susceptible to having far more complications, because you had this very serious and very invasive surgery. And the recovery from a C-section is serious. We live in a society that is not mother friendly. There are pockets of space that are getting there. But generally speaking, we are not a society, we're not a nation that is mother friendly. We know so many mothers have to go back to work 2 weeks after giving birth, 4 weeks after giving birth, 6 weeks after giving birth. That's not adequate time for the body to heal. And that's when we lose the most mothers, is in the postpartum time frame. That first 42 days, that's when we lose the most. And you're very risky all the way up to that first year.
Wow. Wow.
So, like you said, you're seeing a resurgence
Yeah.
in
Go ahead.
doulas, and it's very necessary, because we know that evidence-based, research has shown that merely having a doula present, your positive birth outcomes go up tremendously, right? And the reduction, there's a significant reduction in C-sections. The birthing mother has a much higher and positive birthing experience overall. Babies have a better, babies and mothers do better with that first latch and getting started on breastfeeding, all these things, right? But I must make sure I lift this up. Part of that resurgence also comes up against the same thing we've been talking about all night, which is the structural racism. For many years, people viewed doulas as a luxury for white women. And then as you start seeing this resurgence of doulas and seeing more Black women having access to doulas across socioeconomic statuses, now even doulas are being faced with credential checking and things like that in hospitals that you don't see happen to white doulas. And quite frankly, hospitals weren't even asking the same questions until you start seeing Black doulas coming in supporting Black women. We come in that space ready to support the birthing mother, the family. Many of us are obviously trained from a reproductive justice lens, which means we go in there prepared to empower our clients to be able to stand up for themselves and speak up for themselves when they're being mistreated in medical systems. And so because they're starting to see the pushback, because now our clients are more empowered, our families are empowered, we're building and we're saving lives. Now you see a lot of the gatekeeping, even in the hospital settings.
That is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. I mean, but this that Ed, this is a hip hop talk radio show, right? And one of the things we can't help but talk about is cultural appropriation. But look at this tradition that and Crystal, you shot the mics apart when you said that you called him a medical terrorist. I'm going to use that, right? Uh, the very man who is credited for being the father of gynecology, who on a daily and systematic basis tortured African women in bondage in the shaping of his craft, right?
Yes.
Was himself birthed in this very tradition that as Black women seek to reclaim it, to save their lives and to save their daughters and their granddaughters' lives, they are facing hostility, not just in its legitimacy from being Black, but from other white folks who have come into the tradition for their well-being. It's all right for them, but it's a problem for us.
Oh yes.
As we begin to wind this segment down, right? Uh, let's build on where you were going at the end of what you're just saying last, and how the tradition has gone through a resurgence, and how it is making a benefit and a difference in the lives that doulas and midwives are touching, right? Several things. Where should we be going in terms of turning the corner on this in New Jersey? And two, what do you say to young Black women thinking about, wow, maybe this is a space I'd like to explore personally and professionally? What would you say, right, to those two things as we begin to wind down?
Well, one thing I would definitely say is that when it comes to doula services being rendered, just like we look at, women, being paid 65 cents on the dollar for what towards men, we experience that even in the doula world, as I already, alluded to. For instance, a white doula can go out and charge and yield $4,000 for a birth. But then when you look at the doulas who are deemed community based, right? Those who are working with those who are overrepresented in the deep end of the disparities, different spaces don't really want to adequately resource them and or us, right? Don't want to resources, don't want to make sure that it's equitable, right? The time you could spend at a birth, you could be there for 24 hours, you could be there 48 hours. I mean, we know that those times all vary. And so, you have to, as a collective, I would love to see our community get behind anyone who's supporting Black birthing in that capacity, and ringing the alarm around what reimbursement looks like. New Jersey, we tout ourselves as being one of the first states that did the Medicaid reimbursement for doula services. But what you don't always hear, unless you're within the community, is that yes, there's Medicaid reimbursements for doula services, but when are the doulas receiving the payment, right? Some you could do a birth, today, and what's today, August, you might not get paid till February, right? And so how does the doula, when you talk about the professional side, how can they sustain and support their families while helping birth other families and bring attend births and bring other families into the space, right? So there's a lot to break down and break out, but do recognize that a certified doula, if there's entrepreneurship space, right? You can do private practice and support whomever you choose, and then if you're within the guise of a community-based doula, um, it comes down to the Medicaid reimbursements. They have to do better. They just have to do better. Not only increasing the rates of reimbursement, but the process to become certified as a Medicaid doula, and their turnaround on paying the doula, right? I think that says a lot about how you value the services being rendered when you don't pay someone for 6 months later, right? So that's that's something that we have to really, really address. And also know that, we need to have more of our private insurers, and they are coming around with doula reimbursements as well, because as I said, you have to protect Black women across all socioeconomic status. So, when you tout that we're doing so well on Medicaid, but the numbers that show those who represent the highest mortality are those of the higher socioeconomic status, you have to know that that's why your numbers aren't trending in the right direction. 2018, a Black woman was 4 times as likely to die due to child-related complications. As of now, we are 7 times more likely. So, obviously, putting all your resources behind socioeconomic insecurity is just another way to ignore racism in your healthcare spaces, and we gotta do better.
How do we advance this conversation within the Black community? It's a conversation that is just seems isolated to pockets of sisters doing it. So it seems, right?
I would
This is life and
definitely
death
say,
for the entire community, and it's a conversation that should be in our life and death conversations.
yes. Well, it's one of those things where I can definitely, if I could just throw in the space about salvation and social justice, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Reverend Boyer and Reverend Dr. Charles Boyer and First Lady Rosalie Boyer, they recognize the power in Black faith. This is irrespective of your denomination, who you believe in, and things like that. But Black faith is powerful, and we all come together in spaces of faith. I think that's one great space to be out here pushing this, because in those faith-based spaces, faith-rooted spaces, you have Black women, and this is a critical issue to Black fathers too. That are across socioeconomic statuses, levels of education, different career, paths, all sorts. They're all within there, and that's in Black faith spaces still remains a cornerstone for many of the Black community. That is where people go for religion, right? Because I'm not talking religion, I'm talking faith, but they go there for their to be fed religiously. They'll go there for their mental health, right? They'll go there for a lot of different things. But sometimes we as a community can do better and stop thinking about reproductive justice and sex as being taboo and keeping things in the dark. That is why we are not helping ourselves in this space when we're not having these intergenerational conversations about reproductive health, reproductive justice, and we need to maximize spaces that we convene that together to disseminate this kind of information.
Give us that. Now, we mentioned salvation and social justice, but you have your own organization, right? Tell us about
Yes.
melanin and maternal wellness.
So maternal wellness, the Reader's Digest, it was first founded in 2017. It began as a blog because, as you mentioned, I had a very difficult pregnancy, and as complications continued to arise, when I got to my 20th week, I was so happy to see that my daughter would have all of her, fingers, toes, everything, that I started the blog at that time. But things continued to progress in a very scary way, and so really by the time I was set to deliver, I didn't think I would even see my daughter because things had become so, dismal. And so after I had my daughter, I had to learn, what happened? Why didn't I experience this pregnancy that we love to talk about, glowing skin and long hair and all this kind of stuff? It was really treacherous, to say the least. And that's when I started learning more and more about the disparities in maternal health here in New Jersey and nationally. And so we kind of grew from it being just a blog to offering doula services, and at the same time starting to put a lot of energy in advocacy and activism under the name Melanin Maternal Wellness, because you have to recognize that alone makes our journey very unique. And unique is the nicer way of saying when it's going well, because there are stories of Black birth joy. I don't want to discredit that, but we want to make sure we have more journeys of that. And so we also get into the advocacy space, and we work with various legislators and community-based organizations, faith-rooted organizations, anyone who was willing to get their hands dirty in this. We've come into that space. We've had our first scholarship recipient come through training, and get her feet wet in this space. And like me, she had the interest based on having a very difficult pregnancy where she encountered structural racism firsthand throughout her journey. And so that is Melanin Maternal Wellness, and Salvation and Social Justice. That is our policy, Black faith policy organization. And so, when it comes down to the work, we work with those who are most impacted, which are all of us, right? And we take that to inform what we think policy needs to look like. So right now we're starting to lift up the fact that we need to increase the pipeline to Black midwives, right? Getting into these midwifery programs and supporting them along their journey. And we need to make sure that we're looking at having more Black-led, birthing centers that are inclusive of maternal wellness resources, things that are going to support the entire family. And those are the things that we're looking at from a policy standpoint. This is a very multifaceted problem that's going to require a multifaceted approach to really start solving this.
So many layers. You lifted up so many layers to illustrate that very, very point. Ed, you've been quiet. I know this is busting your head open too. What do you want to ask our daughter before we send her off?
So, you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the things that, this is extremely disturbing to me, but, how does this affect other women, right? Because, when I'm hearing this from a Black perspective, I think about what Dr. Small said when he says that, we need to stop saying people of color and start saying Black, because nobody experiences what it is that we experience in this country, right? And so
level that we experience it.
Yeah. So the question I'm asking is do other women of color, right, who are not necessarily Black or African American, do they experience, this kind of medical treatment when they're giving birth?
Well, yes, I will say that, but this, like you said, it doesn't exceed the Black experience, right? So if you even look at just the statistics around who's represented in maternal mortality, of course, Hispanic women do come in beneath Black women, right, as far as the number. And, they absolutely experience different types of levels of racism when they come into the spaces. That's why, a lot of times, I always say that if you start to address Black maternal health, everybody does better. If you start looking at treating Black women whole, then those other demographics will also benefit. But that's not always the way that it's done. And we have to stay true to this being how do we solve Black maternal health, because we can't lose sight of the lives that we're losing. When you're talking about maternal health, you're literally at a minimum always talking about two lives,
Right.
mother and baby, right?
And
So at the minimum, you're also talking
that means
about
their whole families and to their communities.
That's right. And just when you say how it affects other women, I want to say something, because I am a huge supporter. I believe in my people, obviously, and I don't think that Black fathers get enough credit in this space. And what we don't often talk about, and it's definitely increasing, don't get me wrong, but I just always want to make sure I lift it up in any space that I'm in, is that when we're losing Black mothers and babies survive, right? Who is left to care for the child? It's the father, right? They have their own, unwanted fraternity that they have created of Black fathers who have lost their partners to this epidemic of Black maternal hatred, right? And mistreatment of Black bodies. That is so unfair. And we know this is a nation that never wants to support and uplift Black families and as intact. And I don't mean intact because you're married. I mean intact because you are a unified, loving couple doing your best to raise your Black royalty and your Black excellence. And that's what we don't all, So when you said earlier in the show about talking about genocide, what are we really talking about here?
That's right.
Why don't you want to address it straight as
part of that legacy,
Black maternal health?
Right?
That's right.
From the torturous abuse associated with monsters like sin, the sterilization, right?
Yes.
And all those other things, killing members of the group, causing mental harm, right? The definitions are clear, and we can walk through our experience and see where that has been an operative in our battle for survival and for dignity on these shores since some lost people brought us here some 500-600 years ago.
But I think what you just shared though, Crystal, is important. When you and I think that's across the board, right? Because folks like to say, they talk about, they got this saying where they say, what is it? Something about a wave lifts all boats or something like that. And what you just said is obviously when Black women get better maternal health, everybody benefits from that.
That's right.
And that's always the case, right? It doesn't matter what it is in America. If white folk would just realize, if they just started being equitable when it comes to Black people, everybody would benefit. But the problem is that here we are in 2023, and Black folk, having been in this country for over 400 years, we're still suffering from the same level of racism on every level. And it just seems like if we don't fight and advocate for ourselves, right, then what happens is, particularly in this space, right, we wind up losing mothers to this particular inhumane type of treatment when they're giving birth. And I don't think that we do enough in terms of having this kind of conversation. And I think that we need to do that, right? I think that we need to be lifting this conversation up. We need to be talking about this conversation, but we also need to be making sure that young women are privy to this kind of information, right? Because I mean, there's a big conversation about early child birth and early information and all of that stuff. But if we're not really having this kind of conversation with them, then they're not really being educated to what the real possibilities are for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We could go on for days, and we got, of course, we're gonna have you back, and this is a drum, it's a mic for movement efforts all over, our family from Salvation and Social Justice know that this is a mic they can always turn to. So whenever you want to come back or feel a need to come back, you just text us, and we got you on. Take care of that. Ed, you want to give daughter the ritual question as we wind up?
Yeah,
She's
absolutely.
been here still,
So she know what we can ready to ask.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise. So
Yes.
because we are hip hop radio, political radio, talk show, what and it's 50 years of hip hop now. Everybody's celebrating 50 years of hip hop. I mean, we're middle aged now. So if we were to ask you, what are you listening to? What helps you in your spirit? What you're currently rocking to? What would you say?
I was ready for this question. And I'm gonna tell you, this work requires a serious fight every day because we're just up against so much. And with the celebration of hip hop, 50 years, you've seen so many things come back that you love. The nostalgia is there. And so what has been on rotation in my playlist has been Method Man, Release Yourself.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
That's
I
the
hear
one.
you. Okay.
That's the one.
All right. Okay. You heard it here, right? Give your mother and your sister and the girls, everything you're supposed to give them for me. Give them all my love.
I sure will.
Right. Like I said, you can come back anytime you need to. We need to really look at part 2 and 3 and 4 to this conversation because there's so many levels to it. Right. And we need to continue to round it out in terms of all the other players who are actually trying to lift this up and do this work and to help bring our community together as we try and figure out how to put the corner on this.
And you need to tell folks where they can find you.
So I can be
I put it
found.
on.
Yes.
Go ahead.
It is in the chat,
Go
but
ahead,
it's Melanin Maternal Wellness .org. All of my social media are at Melanin Maternal. Those are my handles for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And also, of course, you can reach us at Salvation and Social Justice, which is SandSJ.org. And our handles, our Twitter and Facebook handles and Instagram are definitely the same.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me.
We got it. All right, we got you, baby. We got you. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Peace and blessings.
Peace.
And okay, that stuff messes me up every time I hear it. But I've been meaning to have this conversation for a while. Akil, I see you're struggling to get on.
Yeah, no, I'm on. I'm just driving, so I'm trying to do this. I'm gonna have to do this without camera on.
Okay, all right. I wish we had it. We got to figure this out, and I'll share it on our Facebook page. That I can do. At the Institute, the Africana Institute has an exhibit going on called Bound No More, where these very space itself is being converted into a reconstituting of a slave ship. Now, I don't want to give much away, but I want our curator to tell us about Bound No More and how that was put together, why that's such an important piece to lift up and the way that you lifted it up. Can you hear us okay out there?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
All right, yeah, all right, we hear you. Okay. All right. So tell us about the exhibit.
Yeah. So Bound No More is, this idea came to me about transforming the conference room into a virtual uh, slave ship. So the conference table, everything, we took the chairs out, we transformed the space and made it into something where folks are pulled over, where folks can literally come in and experience, be immersed into the essence of being on a slave ship. And so we have, but it's bound no more because we start off with freedom, right? And so the beginnings of it talk about, we have the Dudawa head bust, bronze head that's there. We have the chair from the stool from Ghana, but also we got gold. We have chains. We have diamonds or replicas thereof, and all of these artifacts are there for people to kind of come and get in there. And then the part of it is that we have lighting, specialized lighting. We got sound effects. So it's a really immersive experience. And when you get in there, the sound you first hear is the ocean, and then we'll have we got a soundtrack with folks working on a chain gang, and those different effects. And so when you see it, you'll see that there's the ideas about broken bones and blood and all the things that would have been encountered on a ship. And so we want people to feel that. And some people have been even it's touched so much of a chord with some people, they will refuse to even come into the office because it's kind of raw for them. And I understand, and that is and that isn't what we don't want to offend anyone, but we want people to be affected by what that experience was, so they have a touch about what our ancestors experienced. And then we talk about moving from that space. Oh, actually, I need to take a step back. We have an actual chain loaned by Professor Linda Carter, actual chain where someone was enslaved. So we have that chain. We have a replica of a body for someone who is laying in the hulls of a slave ship. And then we got more artifacts, more diamonds and gold, and we talk about the oil and all the different artifacts that people would have had and been encountered and experienced. And so then those become the things that we want people to think about, to see, to smell. And then we have a picture that was done by Brother Poncho, and in that picture he has a slave ship painted in the spine, the back of someone's spine. And the brother is looking out into the space, perplexed and trying to figure out what's going on. And so those are the things that I want people to think about, right? And that it's not just the people, the millions of people that were taken. They also took trillions of dollars in gold and timber and cobalt and cola nut and peanuts and so food and raw materials. All of those things were taken in addition to people. And it moved from a slave experience to a colonial experience. So those things are continuing to be done, and we have to think about what is the impact of that. And then we have a waterfall in there, and the waterfall shows that even though we had these experiences, that we're moving towards a calmer day. And so we have these artifacts from Ghana, from Nigeria, from all these different places. And then we have 3 paintings from Angola. So a friend who I went to Angola last year, and we had the pleasure of working with some folks there, and then they loaned us these paintings, and now we have these paintings up to tell a whole set of stories. And this is how we have to transform spaces so that you can get immersed in things, so people can get immersed and really feel and connect with what those things have been.
I haven't heard of anything like that happening, and I'm going to wipe getting feedback. I haven't heard of anything happening like that at the school in some time. And you've been at the school for a minute now. What led you to what led you down this path?
18 years. 18
It's
years.
been 18 already. Oh my God! I remember
Yes,
when you
sir.
first started. Uh, so what led
Yeah.
what led you down this path? What's happening? What's not happening that led you down this path?
Well, in part, I think it's my thinking is that, one about transforming spaces, not just other people's spaces, but the spaces in which I work. And having the capacity and the leisure to do that gives me room to think outside the box. And then the other thing is that, as we think about the Africana Studies, the Africana Institute and Africana Studies programs across the country, especially here in Jersey and other places, that are threatened, that are under a challenge for those programs. And then we look at places like Florida, and you see they want to
You're ahead
teach
of me. I
all
was
kind of
going there.
crazy
Go ahead.
stuff.
Keep going.
And so then those things that they want to teach are misrepresentation. So if we are not telling our own story, we're going to continue to have other people telling the story, telling us that we benefited from enslavement, telling us that a whole set of things that are untruths, and we can either argue and fuss about them, or we can do something different. So here, was me making a statement and saying we're going to do something different. And furthering that, I'm having a meeting of Africana Institute directors in on August the 15th. Invite them here to begin some discussions about how do we maintain our programs, how do we strengthen them, how do we have better relationships between some of us have programs that do, like I have the institute that I run it does programming mostly. We take students abroad, but we also have a whole set of events that we have every year. But then also there's the academic portion, right? So then there's the major in Africana Studies, and I'm the co-chair of that body. And so as I'm in the social sciences, the other person, Dr. DeFries, she's in humanities. And so we co-chair coordinating that. And so then you got to have better working relationships together between those two. And then that's going to give us more room to keep pushing the envelope. And we have to work with those teachers in high schools and junior high schools, and maybe creating a better way for them to adhere to the Amistad legislation. So there's so many overlapping tentacles that if we're not doing it, then it won't get done. And I'm not one to just complain. I'm one to come up with some alternative strategies, to implement things differently, to think differently, and then to do differently.
Mhm. On the 15th, so far, how many Afrikaners department heads and from what quarters do you expect to come forward so far?
Yeah, so we have 3 folks from Africana Studies in different places in New Jersey. We have the director from Temple University, Dr. Amamazama. We have the director from um, Lincoln University, and Dr. Zizwe Poe. And we're still, reaching out to folks, letting them know, doing the recruitment. And, maybe some folks don't want to come for reasons or another. I mean, it is the summer, but maybe but we're doing it. We decided to do both virtual and in person. So we're going to do both. Um, the thing is that we just want people to realize this is an opportunity to voice your concerns. And sometimes people, and when their programs are threatened, sometimes people don't want to, they feel their positions are threatened. And the thing always for me is that in the end, if my position was threatened, then I have to step up and speak up, because it's not about me and my position. It's about the position itself, because we are stewards of these positions. We are caretakers of the artifacts that we have. They're not our artifacts. I mean, some of them belong to me personally, but for the most part, they belong to us as a people. And I'm the one that's here to create the conditions for of our folks to have access to those things, to see them, to share them, and to so that's why we having this exhibition, so that it was originally going to just stop in July, but I extended it because there was such an interest in it.
I'm glad we got rid of it. I'm going to be. I think I mentioned to you that uh, one of my spiritual teachers, the UMass Boston, he's under attack, and Boston ain't in Florida, right? So I
Yes.
will get that information from you about the 15th, and I don't know why I'm having this feedback. I'm trying to be cool with it. To see if I can get him to come on down because I think he'd be interested. I think he really would be interested, or to at least be able to participate virtually, because he's a warrior scholar like much like you and some of those folks who I'm sure you expect to draw down to be a part of that. And when he came under attack, I publicly said that just as we need a united front against fascism and all these other battles that we're fighting, we need a united front of our Africana Studies program, and our community needs to be united on these fronts. So I'm really glad to see you doing what you're doing. Now it's running until the 16th. Is that correct?
Yes. It's the 16th. Actually, as a matter of fact, we're having a closing reception on the 16th at 5
Tell us
o'clock.
about the reception.
So,
That's where I was going with the question.
yeah. So people are welcome to come down. We're going to have a reception, some food, and then the exhibition itself. So we would love to have folks come down, and all this is free and open to the public. So we want you to join us and immerse yourself.
The 16th is a Wednesday. What time is the reception?
5 p.m. 5
p.m.
to 7.
And it's right in the middle. We haven't had a chance to talk about it yet this month, but it's right in the middle of our Black August.
Yes.
Can't think of a better way to lift up Black August with this kind of discussion and this kind of appreciation. Akil, thank you. You got some great Chris Randall just jumped in out of nowhere. Chris, since you're here, I want you to ask Professor Khalfani whatever you need to ask him, and to ask him the ritual question as we run his segment down.
First of all, how are y'all? How's everybody?
Excellent.
Please, Randall.
Because it is Black August, I do have my black T-shirt on. I think that is.
So wait a second. There's some feedback. So if y'all just mute y'all mics when you're not talking, we'll kill that feedback. Go ahead, Randall.
I think it's interesting that we talk about ancestral veneration and all of those sorts of things. How do we get people, given the ubiquity of white theological hegemony, just the control of our spirituality, from how do we get people involved in these different things when they've been trained to believe negative things about their own spiritual practices? That's the nicest way I can say that. I think I did real good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I think that there's two things to do that. One is that in our those of us who are African traditionalists, that we need to in our prayers, in our rituals, that we bring that front and center, right? That we here you see me in my traditional garb, and headed to a traditional function. That we need to make sure that we bring those requests, that we're doing our drumming, we're doing our chants and our prayers about those things, about uplifting ourselves as a community, about ensuring that folks can see through the murk in the water, as opposed to we spend so much of our time, unfortunately, doing prayers and rituals for this man or this woman or the lotto ticket or something else, instead of doing the things like our brothers and sisters in Haiti did, because that's how they won their revolution, is that they
Exactly, in an
incorporated
African way on African spiritual principles. Absolutely. I was born on Boy Came On. That's my birth anniversary, right? I don't think that's an accident. Go ahead. Now,
Shay.
you done got me all amped up now.
It was a Yoruba priestess named Fatima who gave the opening prayer that started the revolution.
Yes,
She organized.
and she trained Bookman
That's right.
and others in spiritual no understanding the herbs and everything else. So all of those things are the things that they did, and those are the things that we need to be doing today that are about us collectively, right? So I'm working now on the. I've just been asked to be on the organizing committee for the 9th Pan Africanist Congress, which is going to be held in Togo, and I believe this is going to be either 24 or 25. And so, those are the kind of things we need to be doing our prayers for, and bringing the positive energy to bring people together to make that happen in a strong, positive way, so that we can be united as African people. That's where our energy should be directed, and that's where my energy is directed. And those are the kind of things that I work on, and I push people in my tradition and in my circles or my realm of influence to be working on those things and in that fashion.
Duwoti Desir, I don't know if you know Duwoti, but Duwoti is the
Yeah.
Ashe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, she's a powerful sister.
That's right.
We had her at the African Spirituality Conference a number of years ago.
That's right. I wanted to lift her up because that's one of the things that she does in international spaces is challenge the continued isolation and denigration of traditional African practices in the international arena, and that needs to be a part of all of our conversations in any arena where we're seriously about talking about affirming all of our rights. And we definitely need to be talking about that Pan-African conference coming up. Next year is the last year of the International Decade of People of African Descent, and we still got a whole lot to deal with that hasn't been sufficiently dealt with, and as that decade has progressed. So we all absolutely need to be looking forward to that, to the conference, that's the 9th conference that's coming up. So we definitely need to come back on some of that too, for sure. Ed, you haven't had a chance really to say anything, but ask Professor Khalfani anything. Do you want to add something to this real quick? Yeah, you're muted, Ed. And I need to mute myself so we don't get that echo.
Dr. Riley, you muted.
Yeah, peace, Brother Khalfani.
Peace.
So I think I'm really interested in. Have you thought about taking that exhibition on a tour?
Yeah, you know what? I'm working on that right now. I have a brother who I'm working with, a good friend of mine, one of my spiritual brothers, and we're working on and building that out right now because we've got that level of interest in it, and I think that it merits something like that. In fact, I'm meeting with the event I'm going to right now is going to have the Oni's wife, Olori. She's here in the United States. And we're going to, I'm going to have a conversation with her about that, and I've been having other conversations, and so we're gonna push it and strive to wake some people up in different places and spaces.
Yeah, the reason I bring that up to you is because I heard something. Some folks talk about how do people learn, right? And someone said if you can put messages to music, right? People learn from that, right? And they see it differently. And I can remember going down many years ago to the Blacks and Wax Museum in Baltimore and seeing that exhibition, and going from one level to another level, and then you get down to the bottom level.
Young people run the tours.
Yeah, huh?
Seeing young people run the tours at the Blacks and Wax Museum too.
And then you sort of see that, and then you learn really the horrors of everything that had gone on. I mean, it was just horrific, right? I mean, that I gotta tell you, man, I went to one floor. I don't know if they still have this, but there was one floor, man, that you went on where they actually had the testicles, right, of Black men. Right, yeah. where the testicles was actually, cut off by the slave masters. And to think about that level, and I'm telling you, I was a young man at the time, right? And so having that level of consciousness and actually seeing that, the impression that it had on me was, it was palpable. And that's why I asked you if you consider taking this on tour, because remember, a lot of these schools, particularly if you think about these schools that are completely reneging on teaching the Amistad law, right? Think about if there was some sort of relationship that could be built with the superintendents, that we could say, well, let's take you guys don't want to teach the Amistad bill, but how about this exhibition, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can bring this exhibition and we can teach it through this way, and then get people to see it, get people to feel what it's about, right? Because the man and I talk about this all the time. It wasn't one horror that happened to us. It was a parade of horrors, right? That never ended. And some would say it hasn't ended to this day. Right. So if you look at that, those things are still going on. And that's why I think that, what you're doing is extremely important. And I got to tell you, I'm something just came up in my spirits. That we might want to go down there and do a live show down there, just shoot live, from that, just to talk about it and really share that experience, right, with folks.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love
It would
that.
be awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
think
We can set up your chairs and have everything. You could do it right there in the space.
I think we might want to do that before you end, right? I think we might want to go down and just shoot the show live,
Okay, I'm down. So
Yeah,
let's plan that offline, and then we can make that happen.
Yes, sir.
I want to just see if I know what y'all getting ready to ask me, so I'm a hedge the bet and see if I can play this this piece that's on my this part of the exhibition, and see. Let me know if you can hear this or not. Hopefully, I hope you
got
can.
one of my favorite work songs to close it out. Is YouTube, but yeah, let's hear it.
We just lost you, Brother Khalfani, if you can hear us.
Yeah, he's not coming in. He might not hear us. We'll let him come back to us. But I posted the YouTube that intros the exhibit.
Yeah,
it didn't come on.
No, I don't think it's gonna let it play. Let me try one more thing real quick.
Yeah.
But he ends
when you try to flip over to it, we losing you.
Yeah, the YouTube intro ends with the plantation work song "Berta."
Okay.
Right? And that's a favorite, something I use, in trying to do a little stage stuff on my acting side. It's a legendary work song. August Wilson has lifted that up.
Did you hear that?
Of his work. No.
Oh yeah, so it's Berta. It's Berta.
Berta, I was just saying that. Yeah, because you close out the YouTube presentation with Berta. It's a favorite. It's a favorite of mine. In terms of,
I'm gonna tell you what I'm not gonna do. I am not going down the music rabbit hole with Baba Zaid Muhammad. Let me just tell you right now, he'll have you up all night listening to Oscar Peterson and jazz music.
Oscar Brown, you gonna get Oscar.
And in the world of streaming, it just takes you down the rabbit hole. And next thing you know, it's 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. You got stuff to do. I'm just letting you know, Dr. Riley, if you ever spend time
that's right.
with Zaid Muhammad and he start talking about music, you will start taking notes. And by the time you realize it, it's gonna be 5 o'clock in the morning. It'll be a wonderful time, but you got to take a shower when you got stuff to do.
Yes,
that's
sir.
right. So yeah, and Berta is a powerful piece. It's a powerful piece. It's a very soulful piece. I've actually performed it in a theater context from my first theater experience many years ago. So let's everybody as we wind up. Thank you, Professor Akil Khalfani. Let's figure out how to build on this exhibit as we wind that down. It's at the Africana Institute, Essex County College, 304 University Avenue, Newark, New Jersey. Do not miss it. Look for the YouTube link on our All Politics or Local page. I already have it there in our comments section. Right there it is. There you go. Right. So yeah, it's a powerful, powerful segment. Right. For some reason I'm getting feedback too. I'm going to go out and come back in. And Chris, I'm glad you're here because you definitely need to be in this next conversation. Right. And I'll come back in. Right.
All right. Peace and blessings, family. I'll check with y'all later then.
All right, peace.
All right.
Peace, brother.
Yep.
Yes.
It's not. It was not Zaid that was giving the feedback, by the way. You know. Peace, Chris. What's good, my brother?
What's going on, Doc?
You know, we saw you on the Walk of Fame today, man. You know, we were down at Science High School, and Zaid saw a photograph of you up on the wall. And
I was honored by that. I'm glad to have been on there. A lot of work. So
what was it? What was that? But you were never a student down there, right?
I was not. I've only been like a teacher there.
Okay, that's how you.
I've never. Yeah, I've never worked. I didn't go. I'm not from. I'm from Baltimore, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but see, so here's the thing about the Great Blacks and Wax Museum that's interesting, and I wonder, and sometimes maybe you can help me with this. I feel conflicted often with the building of the African American History Museum in DC. It has had a negative impact on the amount of people who go to the Great Blacks and Wax Museum in Baltimore.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Well, because I mean, you all know that DC and Baltimore are sister cities.
Right.
Separated probably the same distance apart as like maybe Paramus and Newark.
Right.
So when you have a huge monument like that with all of the bells and whistles, it has a negative effect on indigenously run and owned spaces like that. Much in the same way, if you look at what Amazon has done in terms of its effect on Black bookstores.
Right. Right. Interesting analogy. But you know, it takes so long for you to go, you know, to the African American Museum. It's easier to go to the Blacks and Wax.
Correct. But
right.
You know, certain ice is colder than other ice. You know that.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we think.
Yeah, that's true. So we think. Yeah.
I thought about you, Dr. Riley, because someone has come into my consciousness that I was not aware of. Don't know how I missed them. All the stuff I've read, don't know how I missed them. Charles Hamilton Houston.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. The great
Charles. Underappreciated legend.
Yeah.
I did not know. So I had heard his name like in passing, but I did not know the full brevity of his contribution.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he was scheduled to get an award by the NAACP, and then he wrote a letter thinking that he was going to get it, and told him not to give it to him, and then he passed away.
Yeah.
Because he thought he had a larger accomplishment coming that he probably wanted acknowledged. And I thought about that in the context of just like giving people their flowers and all those sorts of things. But I had no idea how many Black lawyers he trained. He trained Thurgood Marshall.
That's right.
And it's funny enough, they call him the man that killed Jim Crow.
Yeah. 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 Right. And I'm looking for his book, which is probably behind me somewhere.
Wait, did he wrote a book?
It's an autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know he had a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also discovered that W.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington wrote a book together, which is also interesting too.
For folks' benefits, tell them about the book. That's not a known everyday conversation, even in intellectual circles.
About Du Bois and
at odds about certain things that they actually wrote a book together. Share that out.
Well, I think what's interesting is one thing that I think we all need to learn to do, and sometimes it's for better and sometimes it's for worse, that sometimes, even in quote unquote revolutionary circles, ideologies shift and change.
This is the book, right? This is how old this book is, right? This is,
Wow.
this book is this is the book called Groundwork, right? Charles Hamilton Houston.
Mhm.
Is it he wrote that book?
No, he didn't write this book, but it
Okay.
was a sister who wrote the book by the name of Jean Ray McNeil, and
Got it.
that's Hamilton Houston. But I've had this book for about 40 years, right? That's how old this book is. So you see, and if you look at the book, I mean, there's so many notes in this book, so it's incredible. Just so many things I've learned, and just about his.
And how did that impact your wanting to be an attorney?
Well, I think that one of the things is that, the thing that he talks about is people who want to serve. It wasn't about going to Wall Street. It was really about serving Black people, right? It was about being able to go. I mean, it's really the civil rights work that that he talked about, being able to fight for Black folk. And it wasn't about, like, now you got most lawyers want to run to Wall Street and want to make as much money as they can make. But obviously, now with all of the I mean, if you just take a look at the cases that what's the civil rights attorney that they called the Crump. You think about all the cases now that he's filing, all the civil rights cases and all the litigation that he got going on, and the millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in settlement. So that civil rights work today that he talked about, you've actually got attorneys now that are making millions of dollars. So they don't necessarily need to run to Wall Street. They can just simply serve our people, right? And
get
win
paid
the dollars. Yes. Right. So that's what he was talking about. And he was talking about, not going to law school and coming out and being, basically pimped by white folks, right? But actually getting a law degree and doing some good with it. So, I mean, I would recommend anybody if they if you're thinking about that and you're thinking about law and you're Black and you're thinking about law as a career, you might want to read the book.
I was like, felt super negligent on my part. I was like, I didn't know, that he was that impactful. Like, he's somebody that, history does not recognize in the way it should, I think.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And I know why, because he was a member of the professional class that cared about Black people. So that's a dangerous note. That's a dangerous figure for people to learn about. We had Du Bois and Booker T. Washington wrote the book, The Negro in the South, somewhere around 1923.
But you also don't get Howard Law School without him. You don't get.
Come on.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Charles Hamilton Houston built that school.
Right.
And was just a brilliant brother. And you think about all the lawyers that he basically trained. I mean, most of your civil rights lawyers, most of your Black lawyers was trained by this brother.
Yeah.
So just incredible. I mean, and they, obviously they don't train lawyers like that anymore, but those brothers who came through that Howard that he built was some incredible lawyers.
And he was only in his early 50s when he slipped out of here.
That's right.
So what he laid down in terms of creating spaces like Howard and giving Black law students, mission. That's what he did. He gave them a space. He gave them a mission, right? Even in those short years, his impact is still being felt. Yet it's yet to be properly acknowledged. It was a good film. I can't remember the brother that portrayed him, but there was a decent biofilm on Hamilton that was done about 20 years ago, and I'm trying to lift that up as I'm talking about, because it's this generation
But
and generations behind us are more
he would. Like, I didn't
deceitful.
know. I didn't. That's a bad brother. I don't even know how I missed him. I'm like,
Yeah, he is. He is. And I was toying with the idea of trying to go to law school for a minute. And y'all hear me laugh when I say that I was on Rutgers Law School waiting list from as far back as 1983, and I'm still waiting. That's true.
Yeah.
But Hamilton was an influence. He absolutely was an influence. I can't find the name of that film. It was a film.
But you're absolutely right. Most people don't lift this brother up, right? And they should, right? But they don't, and that's unfortunate, right? And you don't really get this history until you go down to Howard and you see his picture up on the wall, and you see all of the lawyers that came through the program and so forth. But I would encourage everybody to get the book called Groundwork, Charles Hamilton Houston and the Struggle for Civil Rights.
I would also suggest there's an article that both of y'all got to read. Dr. Riley, I'm gonna guarantee you, this scholarly article is 70 pages long, and I promise you that when you download it and read it, I'm old school. I got mine on paper, and I can't do the digital read. But when you download it, Dr. Riley, I promise you, you're gonna read this law article in one sitting. You're not gonna get up until it's gone.
What is it about?
It is by a sister named Angie Porter.
Okay.
ANGIPORTER. She is a professor of law at American University. The title of the article is Africana Legal Studies, a New Theoretical Approach to Law and Protocol.
Go ahead. I love that title. That sounds like some stuff right there. Yeah, let's share that out. Well, tell us about it. You gotta talk about it.
So essentially what she's done is she has taken Jacob Carruthers' argument and about African deep thought, and essentially talks about his critique of, he's an African-centered thinker, probably the one of the preeminent mentors of the modern Africana studies professors. He's one of Dr. Greg Carr, who was a friend of the show, was on the show. He's one of his mentors. He talks about his criticism of looking for philosophy in Africa. It's like, just because we didn't have philosophy doesn't mean we don't have deep thought, because philosophy is European and all of those things. And basically what she does is she takes that same criticism and puts it to legal studies. And Dr. Porter's core argument is the same way that we brought culture and religion and spirituality and art and culture and all those things with us on the slave ship, we also brought ways to resolve disputes and legal theory, which got called protocol, which she calls protocol.
Wow. Let me look that up right now. Yeah.
I can't hear you, Baba Zaid, if you talk.
Am I muted? No, I'm lifting that up right now. I see our guests are coming in. But where's Hakim?
He's not back there yet.
Okay, because Hakim is supposed to be bringing this young person on to lift up their work, because I'm sure they got something coming up. But let me get this. Chris, lift it up. Go into with Angie Porter a little more as we're waiting for Hakim to come on.
I couldn't hear you, Baba.
I said go into Angie Porter a little more as we wait for Hakim to go on, and then we're gonna bring daughter in.
Oh, well, essentially, so um,
Well, tell us what led you to read that in the beginning.
well,
Yeah.
so it was interesting because I watch Dr. Greg Carr. He has a show on the Black Star Network called The Black Table, where
Right.
he invites scholars and all those sorts of things on to have conversations about things they've published. And on the legal roundtable, we had Angie Porter, and they were talking about this particular approach that she has to legal theory. And it begins with arguably one of the most riveting stories I've ever read on paper to prove a particular point. And it talks about some of our ancestors who were enslaved in 1743. And they are a group of enslaved Africans. She does some pretty rigorous historical work. She cites Gwendolyn Midlow Hall's work on Africans in colonial Louisiana. And essentially, it starts off with, it says in 1743, a group of enslaved Africans from various estates in French colonial New Orleans gathered, held a musical ceremony, sung in their native language, and discussed the actions and fate of a slaveholder named Corbin. Earlier, Corbin had threatened to shoot one of the enslaved Africans in his group, and Corbin's brother then actually shot that person with a gun loaded with salt. Now, as the group of Africans gathered, they determined that Corbin had to die. 2 months later, Corbin disappeared and was never found. Now, this is the part where this is her core argument. She says, if we use a traditional Western legal framework to describe this situation, we might say that this group of slaves met, conspired, plotted to murder, and likely did murder Corbin. But if we center the perspective of these enslaved Africans and contemplate that they had their own home cultures with their own systems of justice brought with them from Africa, we might rephrase. And then here's the kickers. She says, these Africans, we might rephrase. These Africans convened and judged Corbin's conduct, sentenced him to death, and likely execute him.
Is she gettable? We need to get her on.
Sure, I'm sure. Yeah, she was
Washington. She's at Washington College.
Yep.
Okay.
American University, Washington College of Law. Yep.
Yeah. We need to get her on. And I hadn't heard that. All right.
Yeah, and so what she takes up is that because these particular ideas operate from a different kind of cultural milieu, right? If we center the Africans' protocols, then you might say that they convened and judged Corbin's conduct, sentenced him to death, and likely executed him. But if you take the Western framework, you would say that these slaves met and conspired and they did all these illegal things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a very riveting piece.
Yeah. And you know, the battle for critical race theory continues. I just dropped it on our Facebook page so folks can take a look at themselves. And now Hakim is supposed to bring on our next guest, and is he not there yet? But the guest is there. You can see that, right? What? She's mute. You come on in, Unicorn 151, aka Killer Kirk. Come on in.
What's going on? What's the word, my good brothers?
And tell us what's up. Now I don't know where our beloved Hakim Green is, Mr. Our dear friend and brother who was supposed to bring you on and lift you up. I don't know where he at, right?
I don't know where he at. But I'm here though. We here. We live. What's going on?
Welcome to All Politics and Local.
Okay.
Tell us about what you're doing, how you're rolling, what you got going on.
Oh man, we got a lot going on, man. For those who don't know, I do music, film, fashion, community work, Work with children with autism. I work with at-risk children in the community, Newark, East Orange, anywhere in Essex County. During the pandemic, I was even doing stuff remotely. So I had kids all around the nation that I was mentoring and helping out with the behavior therapy and things like that. But most relevantly now is the music. You know, I'm working with the mayor, Ras Baraka, and we have a project called The Other Side of Newark, where we're trying to highlight the rappers and entertainers of Newark, but in a positive light. We put out a project where we did about 11 to 12 songs, no cursing, touching on pivotal issues in our city and in our community that we need to deal with. We shot a music video for every song. We included almost every high school in the Newark area. We included the kids.
Wow.
We Yeah. We had University, Shabazz, Arts, Science High. I mean, multiple, maybe like 2 high schools per video. So we're talking about like probably had about maybe 14 different high schools. We had the Office of Violence Prevention involved, the Brick City Peace Collective involved, Board of Education is involved, and really just trying to highlight, you know, some of the things that are homegrown here in Newark, like Jersey club music, which is now worldwide, and sort of give our artists and the artist community the motivation they need to keep on going, because for a long time, the city hasn't really got behind the artists in the way that they're doing currently. You know what I'm saying? So we just been trying to bridge that gap.
Wow.
In a way.
Hey, did you know about this? Did either one of y'all know about this? I ain't heard a damn thing about this. How did that get by?
Listen. I'm the least cool person on the whole panel. Okay. When the arts was coming through the womb, I was doing like this. I can't dance. I can't dance in a square. I can't trace a line of paint, nothing. So I'm just glad that there are people who can.
Yeah, word.
So let's take a minute. I shared your webpage on our Facebook page as we're doing an interview. But let's deal with that. When did this project start? What's going to happen with the project? How can folks see it? Has it been produced? Is it available yet? All of that. Let's deal with that.
Yeah. So actually, this is what I forgot to mention. The project really started with producer Jerry Wonder. For those who don't know who that is, he's a platinum selling producer. He produced for the Fugees, produced for Shakira, DJ Khaled. He has a lot of huge catalog. And him and Ras Baraka came together with this idea, you know what I'm saying? And they figured it would be good for the city just to really showcase the people that are setting a good example, myself and many of the other artists that are on this project. Because a lot of us are like really from, you know, Newark, and we have a good grassroots following and support system, and we're not too far gone from the trenches to where it's like we're unreachable, you know what I'm saying? We're actually active in the community. I want to say the project might have started a couple of months ago, maybe like 8-9 months ago. I came on at the tail end of the project to represent house music and Jersey club music. But the project had been going on for months before I even came. I came at the very, very end. And I sort of was here to like lend my resources and lend my crowd, my fan base, and my supporters to this project, just to give it more reach, to give it a little bit more impact, and to try to make it current and relevant, because club music and house music is really for the kids. So this is something that make it more relevant to a younger demographic also. So that's pretty much it. The whole purpose of the project is to try to include everybody from the administrators to the programs that deal with film and camera work, to the programs that deal with music and instrumentation, and have everybody be a part of this thing that now that we have it uploaded on streaming platforms, is a global thing. Anybody can download it. It's called The Other Side of Newark. It's on It's on Apple Music, Spotify, anywhere YouTube, everywhere.
What's it called again?
It's called The Other Side of Newark.
That's the name of the album?
That's the name of the album. The name of the album and the name of the group is The Other Side of Newark.
Got it.
Yep.
What sort of inspires that level of artistry, right? Because for me, I'm always interested because, you know, I read a lot of stuff like that. But when you think of that level of art, like what is it? I always want to, like, I always wish, like, sometimes I talk to Hakim, I'm just trying to get, like, what does it feel like to make something like that and to be in the room with the creation of something like that, right? Because um, for me, that's kind of the thing. Like, how do you, and then the second piece of that is how do you inspire people to participate at that level, considering how many subgenres there are of hip hop music, of hip hop tradition, and things like that. Like, how do you sort of bridge those two things?
Well, to answer the first question, it really feels surreal, especially for a lot of the artists that are on the project that are newer artists who haven't had, well, a lot of artists from New Jersey haven't really had much opportunity in the music business in the first place. You know, we've been dominated by New York and other regions. So for us, we got to walk the red carpet at the VMAs. We went to the Grammys. We done performed at NJ Pack. We performed at Lincoln Park Festival. So we're getting a lot of the newer artists that are on this project are getting a lot of opportunities and performing and recording in studios with these mainstream producers that they probably would have never got before. You know, a lot of artists work their whole life just to meet another artist, celebrity, to get in a certain room. A lot of artists work their whole life to meet Jerry Wonder. Not everybody could be Lauryn Hill or Wyclef or the Fugees. You know, it takes a lot. So to have a whole album produced by this legendary producer, to be on the VMAs, the Video Music Awards, and at the Grammys, and getting these major looks that we're getting, it really feels surreal. It's humbling, but at the same time, it's exciting and it's motivating because it's like, wow, this could really happen if you really, you know what I mean, stick to the game plan, and you really persevere, and you really are determined, and you really stay out the streets and focus on your craft, and you really don't get distracted. So all these things come into play when you're like, damn, a year ago, you know, we was recording in the basement and dealing with crime on the corner. 365 days later, we're on the red carpet with some of our favorite artists, being able to network with them. So, you know, I think for a lot of the people involved in the project, it's a huge thing. For the kids and the high schoolers and the middle schoolers that are involved, it's like, yo, we're on major music video platform. Our parents can watch us on TV now. If BET plays this video, our parents can be proud that we participated and did something artistic. So I just think it's a culmination of a lot of exciting feelings. To answer the question about the artistry, for me, myself personally, right, I feel like Newark, New Jersey has not truly understood what we've done to the music game in the past 3 years. We have a genre of music called Jersey Club that's literally from Newark, New Jersey. Club music is produced, born, invented in Newark. We have producers that are 16 years old that are currently producing for major artists.
Was in Rwanda in East Africa. I need everybody. I want y'all to picture this because I won't say where I was at or what I was drinking, but I will say that I was in Rwanda in East Africa, and I was out. And I want you to know that when that Jersey club music hit in Rwanda,
you
would have thought this place blew up. Everybody knew the words. Everybody knew the moves, the movements, the dance. I was like,
it's crazy.
All I could do was, I could not participate. But all I could do was watch.
How long ago was this for you?
About 4 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So currently today, and like I said, the reason why I feel like this Newark project is so important is because us here in Newark, we don't know this. But if you, like myself and a few other artists that are Jersey Club artists, right? There's only a few of us, but we travel the world to perform. And when we're in these other countries, I kid you not, you know how you go to another country and they play like top 10 radio, they play the top 10 songs that you'll hear in America, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The top 10 current songs all have Jersey Club beats. It's like being in Newark, no matter where you go around the world right now.
Right.
And I'm talking about in South America, in Africa, in Europe, in all these places, Jersey Club is the back. Yeah, we are the backbone of music right now. Like, as far as
and I'm from Baltimore, so you know I'm a little bitter that y'all getting this shine with the club music. I won't be. I will not get into the blood and cripping right now, but I'm just saying I'm a little upset. That's all.
They're gonna be the jealous.
I will say this, right?
I'm sad.
I understand.
As Jay-Z once said, I can't see him coming down my eye. But
listen, I love Baltimore, and we do a lot of I work with Baltimore artists a lot too. I know Baltimore Club, but Jersey really carried this from the 90s until now, right? And what we did that was innovative is, you know, we sat back and we were thinking, Jersey club music gets listened to everywhere. Like we do millions of streams, millions of views, but we don't have we didn't have original Jersey club. We didn't have rapping and singing on Jersey club. It was mostly a sampled type of music that we couldn't monetize for years, for decades. We could never really monetize this gold mine that we were sitting on until a very few of us began making original Jersey club and adding rap to it and adding singing to it and adding Latin music to it and Afro beats to
Gospel, all of it. Yeah.
gospel, everything, because it's really a type of music that,
Man, go listen to Killer Mike's album. You'll hear it.
you get what I'm saying? Bad Bunny, Beyonce, when Beyonce just did her show the other day, she has a Jersey club section of her performance. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's really important that something that's global right now that we've been doing for decades in Newark, we should be getting that shine, we should be getting that recognition, and we should be motivated, because this is the youth that's producing this music. Like, unbeknownst to a lot of people, a lot of these producers are like 17 years old in their basement. A lot of these dancers in the high school making these major songs. So I think for them, it's kind of discouraging where, they're doing these things that are major on the internet, but in their real life, they're in the basement in Newark. When they walk out their door, they still face danger. If they want to have a party, it got to be a basement party. The city is not funding their parties. If they want to have a dance battle, they got to do it in the park where, they got to face what else might be going on in that park while they want to have their innocent dance battles. And it's like, why is us, and I'm a little bit older than the youth, right? So me and the administration and the city and the politicians and everybody who has resources that can reach down and help should be like, listen, we see the greatness and the potential that y'all have. We should be getting behind it. We should be holding them up. We should be having award ceremonies for these kids. You know what I'm saying?
But also, I think what I think is difficult. I think, and not to be a defender of problematic mismanagement, for sure, but certainly, what's up, Hot?
Oh, there you go.
What's good?
In
the building. A little late.
You're behind that on Malcolm time. You know that, right?
Well, Baba Zaid, I got a good excuse. I've been out here running these East Orange streets with your man.
There you go.
Hey, what's good, bro?
All right. What's up, TJ?
All right,
that
man.
is none other than the great TJ Whitaker, who was just on the air with us just a few weeks ago for the Howard Zinn Project. He had us in the street for the Howard Zinn Education Project. Right on. That's right. That's an EO throwback. You two together sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
For me, the first rap album I ever purchased was Tupac Shakur's "Are You Still Down?"
Okay.
It was a double CD, and it cost me almost $30. And you know what I had to do? I had to stand in line, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And I finally got to the line, and I was probably in about the third grade. I had to have my mama with me because it had the parental advisory sticker on it. But she knew Afeni Shakur, so she felt okay with it. And
for everybody's background, Chris's mother was in the Black Panther Party. Chris is a cub of the Black Panther Party. I want everybody to appreciate that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Keep going.
So she bought the album, and then I had to take it home, and then it took me 2 days to get through all of the songs. It was a double album. And then it took me another 4 or 5 days to come up with an opinion of what I thought of all of that. And that was sort of my introduction to, consuming cultural production. But now, like, an album drops tonight. It's on my phone at midnight. I'm listening to it at midnight as soon as it drops. I got access to it. It's just, there's nothing in between me and the artist and me and the music. And I think in a lot of ways, there are lots of folks there are lots of folks who don't really understand how modern media works in that way. At least in terms of the speed at which these things can be produced, consumed, and disseminated. And I think that sometimes that creates that is why things are moving at a snail's pace at points.
Or just the opposite. Right, and you just encapsulated how music has changed in production and distribution just in the span of a few years. That's something to creature, and I still miss my records. I don't know nothing about iTunes and none of them people. Right? I was comfortable back in the day with my records. That was it. Leave me my records and my books and my guns, and I'm good. Right.
Yeah,
I keep jumping because this is your segment. You brought the young man in this story to us. Jump on in here. Now he introduced us to the other side of Newark and whatnot, but blow this conversation up some more. You ain't no model.
So it's crazy talking about this new wave and how culture is how it's packaged and sold. And there's this influencer, Kai Sanat. I don't know if you talked about him yet, but he just shut down downtown Manhattan. He did some type of giveaway, some type of promotion that they promoted online. They were all going to meet on Broadway and Union Square, and like thousands of people showed up, and it turned into a riot. Like this just happened in New York City like an hour and a half ago. So, and now I don't know who this case Kai Sanat. I don't know who that person is. I know what Twitch is. I've used Twitch, but I'm not locked in on Twitch. I'm not like
Rhino uses Twitch a lot. Yes.
Yeah, Rhino uses Twitch. Yes, I'll check out Rhino's show, Tony Touch, DJ Basil. Like if I go to Instagram, they'll have a directive to go to Twitch for engagement, and that's when I'll go over there. But I don't really live on Twitch, right? But there's this entire world on Twitch and other platforms like it, where culture is being exchanged and these new stars are being created, these new, icons that young people are buying into, whether it be through music, skits, through just being an influencer, video game culture, gaming culture is huge. It's like this whole world online where hip hop is. And the folks who, kind of created hip hop culture, we don't even engage with it like that. It's like it's something totally different. Like I like records myself. I like wax and I like to feel it. I like that analog sound.
Yes.
Hakim, if it wasn't for the channel live wormhole that I have been like, listen, the kind of introduction I've been able to do with students of all colors, really, Black students in particular, but all colors, through being able to stream your music, I don't think you fully can appreciate.
Really?
So there's a genealogy of your music that goes all the way to the early 90s,
right?
That kids can consume over. So if I'm you have a song called Y'all.
Oh, I just put that out.
Y'all people, ninjas. Ninjas.
Y'all ninjas. Y'all ninjas.
Yeah. It's interesting being able to take that.
Wait a minute
for kids.
Wait a minute, Hawk. I want to know who them y'all niggas are. Like, who you talking about?
I want to uplift the block. Y'all niggas stick to pimping. So it's like, those cats, oppression going that look like us. Tyrone and them, I don't know Tyrone and them.
So when I was giving a lecture about Du Bois and what he was writing about the Negro College, I was able to take that. He talks about the program of education is to seek from the beginning of history of the Negro in America and in Africa to interpret all history from the beginning of social development among Negro slaves and freemen in America and Negro tribes and kingdoms in Africa to interpret and understand the social development of all mankind in all ages. Being able to take that makes that lesson far more palatable to young people. And I think that if I actually understood house music and I wasn't just bitter from Baltimore and feel like that we're not getting no shine, if I wasn't a hater, then I probably could do it with house music too, if I wasn't a hater. But I am in fact a hater. Just keeping it real. Just hate. Because the story that I'm telling, I'm sticking to is that we made club music, and then they renamed it house music, and hurt our feelings. That's the story I'm telling.
Well, I thought you.
So what you gonna say to our heads of Chicago?
I ain't say I was historically correct. I just said I'm telling that's the version of the story I'm telling.
That's what you're sticking to. I got it.
And I'm not here for any of your woke ideology, Baba Zaid.
We beyond woke. We should say we practice is nightmare. That's
but seriously, I think I think that Unicorn was saying to us earlier about the way that these kids are moving with the art. I think that a lot of older people just don't understand how fast it's moving and how quickly the kids can do it.
Yeah,
that's real. I hear that. I do hear that.
Like
you know some of that, right? And it's and we're in the time of year where things start flying. This is the beginning of August. In a minute, we're gonna be talking about 24 hours apiece and all of that and whatnot. So put some more legs under what we've been talking about already. Did you hear me?
Talking to
I think
who you were directing that to?
To you.
I'm talking to you, huh?
Oh, okay. Well, I've been talking about 24 hours apiece all day. I wish I could tell you the lineup, but not quite just yet. But I can tell you this: it's definitely going to be better than last year. And when you see what happened last year, for me to be able to say that, like next week, I'll be able to, confidently say this is the lineup. Right now, I don't want to just give you dribs and drabs of it. But it's going to be, incredible. Same location, Springfield Avenue between Bergen and Littleton. September 1st and 2nd.
You got dates
6 to 6.
All right.
Yeah. And it's going to be phenomenal. You can best believe when I tell you, like, now I don't want to give away anything. Next week, you'll all know who's going to be on the lineup. We're just about closing it, but I want all the confirmations before I give the whole thing. But TJ's talking about the town hall. Mama, I made it. I don't even want to give that away. We got we're doing a town hall from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday afternoon. That's September 2nd. And with that particular town hall, Mama, I made it. Lots of times we talk like the negative part of the culture or we want to talk about the positive. We want to highlight the folks who made it to share some of their strategies and some of their, ups and downs that led to them actually making it. And we're gonna have some big names on that panel. Some homegrown Newark folks gonna come back and share with us, and some folks who are not from Newark gonna come share with us. But that's gonna be amazing. But we're looking to set it off September 1st and 2nd, 24 hours apiece, Newark, New Jersey, Springfield Avenue between Bergen and Littleton. Last year we did 20,000 people.
Last year was a movie.
Last year we did 20,000 people, and I'm telling you, this year's lineup is better than last year's lineup.
Tell TJ that Daruba and Sekou showed up last year. I had to take care of both of them.
Yeah, Daruba still cussing me out because I didn't see him. He was like, "Punk, I was calling your name on the side of the stage. You would not look my way. You
look. Listen. You're a gangster when you can cuss out Hakim Green and he don't say nothing.
Hold on, we talking about Daruba Ben Wahad.
Again, let me say one more time. You're a gangster when
you ain't been on here yet, too. I've been coming on here yet.
If you cuss out Hakim Green and he don't say nothing back, you got to be a gangster. Now, listen. I wouldn't cuss at Hakim Green like that. Yeah. But if I was Daruba Ben Wahad, I could. I say that.
Daruba was one of your mothers.
Yeah, Daruba's not the only one, but there are few.
There are few.
Yeah.
So go ahead relate the oncoming of 24 hours apiece with this project, the other side of Newark that Unicorn has been lifting up for us.
Oh wow! Well, I was just sitting with the magnificent, super talented Jerry Wonder. from the refugees, who's kind of the music coordinator of that project, The Other Side of Newark. They came out and performed last year on our stage, closed it out, did a phenomenal job. And just the messaging is that the other side of Newark, it's not the stories we get from our city too many times aren't the most positive, so for these young folks, teenagers, early 20 somethings, but primarily teenagers, high school students coming together to, give some art expression around upliftment, positivity. It's just a phenomenal project all the way around. They performed last year and crushed it. Like one of the dopest performances, of the 24 hours. And these are all young Newark artists who are, doing their thing and keeping it positive. So big shout out to them and Jerry Wonder, everybody involved. Tanisha Harrell, the mayor, of course, and there'll be sprinkles of the other side of Newark all along 24 hours apiece this year. So look out for that.
I think, we need to grab Tata because Tanisha's is moving to doing the ciphers and whatnot for the Office of Violence Prevention. I don't think, have we had her on yet, Ed?
No.
Yeah, we need to kidnap that young queen and bring her on and give her the mic for a few minutes sometime too. Work.
And can I just shout out, our brother Tayari. I'm sitting here with TJ, and the irony of that is that, when I came back home, hooked up with my homies, Tayari, TJ, and they had me at Newark Anti-Violence Coalition protests.
Right.
So that's how I got introduced to it. And then sitting around, building around the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition and that work and trying to figure out how we could add on is what led to 24 hours apiece.
Yeah.
Doing, creating a demonstration on the block in the neighborhood where people need the message, and you dress it in hip hop culture: peace, love, unity, safety, having fun. And you build that stage for positivity. And that's all it takes really for young people to see it. And if they see it, they'll be able to actualize it bigger than how you presented it. So that said, we started this thing in 2010, very small. A few hundred people came out to enjoy it. It was a winger wagon, just a little truck with a platform on the back.
Right. That's
sound
right.
system.
The
sound system was, rough, rugged, and raw.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and the next thing you know, we got the big stage, the big sound system. Raz is the mayor of Newark, New Jersey. And him pushing the initiative, violence is a public health issue.
That's right.
Gave the legs for 24 hours apiece to do what it's doing. And for us to be in that lane of peace, love, unity, safety, having fun. 20,000 people came out last year, and we're drawing the level of talent that we're drawing, not just the mainstream artists, but the local talent like the other side of Newark.
Right.
To see that manifest over time should serve as an example for all of our children that if you have an idea and a vision, you can create something spectacular, even when everybody's telling you, no, it's not going to work, which is what we heard. We heard that for the first 5-6 years. It's not going to last. It's not going to last. Now we're what? This is number 12 over 13 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But I think, what's crazy is that I was sitting here thinking, as I was listening to Unicorn, I often I don't think that there's a day that I have ever where I don't consume some form of hip hop music.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not talented enough to get with house music because I just not. I have several embarrassing childhood stories I'll tell you at some point offline of me attempting to participate and catching some serious L's. But
can't dance. Huh?
Let's just say that there's a house/club music night dedicated to that music in Baltimore at a place called Shake and Bake, which is a skating rink where all the cool kids go to hang out. And let's just say that one night I participated a little bit too far and an L was called. That's all we need to know. But I kind of think about like what kind of like anointing one has to have the vision of YouTube, right? Like one person to say, here's a thing that we created that's a homegrown art form, i.e. house music.
Mm-hmm.
And here's something like 24 hours a piece. And if we just sprinkle some love on it, we can make this work. Like it's really interesting to watch those things grow. Like to hear the organic stories of those things is really important.
The stick-to-itiveness. Watching the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition every Wednesday for 5.5 years straight.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Dedication. Like, you know, it had to be done. It needed to be done. And when your lifestyle is that of activism and the give back and community and upliftment and empowerment, when that is your lifestyle, I mean, you just do it. It's just, you got an idea, I do it. It might take you a week, a month, a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But if you're living in your purpose, you're going to achieve that goal. And there is no time limit on success. It's just perseverance and dedication. And when you make that thing your lifestyle, like my lifestyle is peace, love, unity, safety, having fun. My lifestyle is hip hop. My lifestyle is activism. My lifestyle is, you know, it's just my people's, you know what I'm saying? Madism. Oh, we do.
Yes, sir.
And look what happened. But you know, it's more of a, you know, I know we use the word struggle, and I know, you know, in what sense we use that word, and it's a very important word, you know, but you know, for me, it's not struggle because I like doing it. So I do it with a smile on my face. And I'm not struggling. I'm working with my people to uplift each other.
George Jackson says that revolution should be done out of love.
That's right.
So
yes,
it is in fact revolutionary struggle, but it's done the correct way, which is with love.
Yes.
Right.
Like I'm gonna tell you right now, I look, two people I don't want to talk to about music: Hakim Green and Baba Zaid Muhammad, because Hakim Green will have. See, you talk to Baba Zaid, he gonna have you up till 5 o'clock, and then Hakim Green gonna have you up from 6 o'clock to back to 5 o'clock.
That's right.
Like I've been able to teach kids, like a generation of students, off of DJ Rhino's t-shirts, having conversation with Hakim Muhammad, and spending time talking to Baba Zaid about music. Like I think that there is, and Unicorn, like you don't know, like I'm a debate coach and stuff like that, and we infuse the art into argumentation. And I think that one of the things that I think is interesting is how the cultural production of students influences the way that they consume art.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm presenting at a theology conference in October, and one of my kind of arguments is one of the reasons why religious practice is losing its fervor among Gen Z is because they do not understand the cultural languages that they use.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah.
In order to lift people up, you got to bend down to where they are.
That's right.
Hey, Hawk, I have a few questions for you, right? So one is that I'm curious, what would you say the music of the youth is today? Is it hip hop?
That's a good question, Brother Ed. Great question. I think that it's born out of hip hop, but it's not necessarily the hip hop we relate to. I think that our young people are creating something new, different, divergent. And it's never all bad. It's never all good. So I don't want to go that way with it. More so they're creating things that I don't necessarily recognize as hip hop. They have their entirely, totally different interpretation on how they're making music, how they're expressing themselves. I think that's to be celebrated and elevated. Just you know, giving them the signpost that gives direction, so they don't make the same mistakes we made as we were making our art. Like hip hop is born out of R&B. Hip hop is born out of rock and roll, like it is born out of jazz. That's why there's all these different subgenres of hip hop. You got jazz, rock based, house music based, you know, different versions of it. But what young people are doing now, because of technology and the different sounds that are available to them, how they manipulate those sounds, they have different tools and devices that give us different frequencies. I think that the music hip hop is becoming something different. Whether we still call it hip hop, I don't know. But it's not the hip hop I recognize, put that way.
Same question to you, Unicorn.
Yeah. I believe that the music is still hip hop. I think everything evolves, right? And so every generation always, for the most part, thinks what the young generation is doing is too new, too crazy, less authentic, et cetera, right? I remember when NWA and the gangster rap era came out, and my parents were like, "What the hell is this?" Like, I understand spoken word, I understand poetry, but this is just degradation. Like, even when Biggie and Tupac was rapping, my parents was like, they rapping about foolery. This isn't really, I don't understand that, right? And then if you get to the youth after that, the whole snap era and the bubblegum era and the dance era of rap music, and then you got the drill era, and I think there's many different subgenres. And because of technology, now you have so many different sounds. You got people rapping in auto-tune. You got people that sing and still consider themselves rappers, which to me, I'm like, that's not rap. I don't really listen to the auto-tune singing stuff, but there's a huge demographic of people that consider singing and whining and you don't even have to rhyme anymore. They still, as long as it's over a certain beat, they still consider that hip hop, and they're enjoying it and consuming it in ways that maybe the generation or every 5 years, every 10 years, we kind of look down like, what are they doing? But you always have to look to the youth because the youth is the future. And I think for the most part, well, hip hop isn't really that old as opposed to other genres of music, right? But now you have multiple generations that are in this genre of music, and there's so many subgenres. I would say hip hop is still the music of the youth, but hip hop is now integrated into so many different other genres. You can hear a pop song that might have a rapper featured on it. You can hear a Afrobeat song or a reggae song, or even just a purely, you got country music with rap in it now. You know what I'm saying? So I think hip hop is still the music of the youth. I think it's evolving. I think technology has tied it to so many different cultures, like the people on Twitch, the gamers listen to a certain type of music. The people on TikTok, all their music is tied to a dance or tied to a movement. And so it's become fun for the youth in so many different ways, whereas it might not be so much fun for an older generation because you don't want to be in front of your phone dancing all day to your favorite song. You just want to ingest it. Or maybe you want to ingest some positivity or ingest some lyricism. Whereas maybe youth don't care about ingesting lyricism as much as they care about being able to bop to it and shake their hips to it. You know what I'm saying? So but I would say yes, everything is still born out of hip hop. I think hip hop is still the primary genre. And I think just evolving and elevating and forming and going through what it's going through.
Can I add something quickly? Yeah. Well, two things. One is, well, you said everything evolves.
Correct.
Some things devolve.
That too.
Right. So just because we're moving forward in time doesn't necessarily we're moving forward in our artistic expression.
Yeah.
There are times that things get stunted and go back and devolve, go backward.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
That's true. But I think we have certain genres that are kind of stunting us. Like if you look at like the drill music and everything's about murder, kill, smoking this up, smoking that up. That's not really progressive for it, right? That might get old quick. But for some kids, they like that. But then you have like the Griselda guys that are actual lyricists, and you got certain rappers who still push lyricism, and there's still an audience for that as well. So I think certain things have their time. Some things might come and go, some things might stay, and there's always going to be like a balance maybe within hip hop, or some might be more popular.
Here's what's wild though, y'all. Here's what's the wildest thing. Here's the wildest development in hip hop for me. That makes me think that Hawk, you onto something, and Unicorn, you onto something. I think here's the intersection of it. Major artists, younger artists, Little Dirt, the Baby, Lil Baby. Guess what's happening to them this summer? They're having to cancel concerts.
Yep.
Because nobody wants to see them. But you know who's added more dates to their concerts? Wu-Tang, Nas, 50 Cent,
LL.
Yeah.
What,
these people
put out 20,000 people last year.
Yeah. So the question what I think Unicorn's getting at, and for me, I think that dropping that piece into it is getting at is it's just like anything else, right? I'm getting into cooking a lot, right? Learn how to cook a lot. There are some things that just because I can make some lamb chops, macaroni and cheese and collard greens ain't going nowhere.
Yep.
No matter how much vegan beyond whatever, macaroni and cheese gonna be on the menu. I think that there are certain core tenets and certain great things about any particular genre that if it has staying power, those things are going to be great. Because at the end of the day,
I agree.
the kid who can sit in front of their phone all day and do the little shuffle and do the dance, in 5 years that kid's going to be 20 and will have had real experiences in life, far beyond what their 15-year-old mind could experience.
Yep, exactly. You know,
and so for me, it's like I'm just understanding what when Nas put out Daughters, and he was talking about learning how to be a dad with an aging daughter. Now I got students. Now I have students who are now 20, and I'm sitting back going, "Wow, did I teach them enough stuff? Did I give them enough of the things? Did I spend enough time saying about not to do X, Y, or Z? Okay, how do I manage that now? They have now made this post on social media. What do I say?" And it's like, oh, that's what you were saying, Nas. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. Jay-Z, The Evils, I'm just understanding it.
But
when you put out the song about bringing back hip hop,
which one is that?
That song, when you were like, it takes a Jersey brother to bring New York,
New York rap.
Yeah, and when you think about that, like that hits a little different now when you start seeing the major artists of the current generation having to cancel shows because nobody wants to see them.
Yeah, that's real.
That all those things are just kind of hitting differently, and I think that there has to be a level of, as much as things are moving at a fast pace, we all have to have a level of cultural patience to let things concretize a little bit, and the cream is going to rise. Because when I think about some of the people who were huge when I was a kid, that made the Laffy Taffy Jigaboo music, they not around no more.
Nope.
Everything comes in things. Like I said, things come, things go. It's like trends, like fashion trends.
But let me add this into the mix, right? So, do you think do you think there's any concern as to where AI is going based around the music industry now? Because some folks was having this discussion about the record that was released where they discovered it wasn't even Drake singing, and the people said that they liked that better than Drake himself. I mean, so is there any concern about that?
There's a lot of concern around that. This writers' strike that's going on in Hollywood, a large part of that is based around how they're going to utilize AI to try to replace artists.
Right.
So essentially,
right.
You're asking now is, how does that affect us as musicians, as vocal artists, as performers, when you can create something in AI, artificial reality, and it sounds like the real thing? It's scary. I think the law has to catch up. Congress has to catch up. There's got to be a group of lawyers to start putting legislation down that keeps, entities from using your name, likeness, your voice, to create another entity. A lot has to go into protecting art around AI. But to that point of AI and how we're kind of led to a place, when I think of dancing, and when I saw everybody buying the Wii game station so they could, whatever game that was, they could dance along with it. That was scary to me because it was like, I'm used to seeing white people do things like that. I'm not used to seeing black people mimic white people dancing, which is essentially what was going on.
Wow.
And when everything's a robotic, you do this, and you wave, and you do this, and you do that. So all the dances that we're getting now, for me, started with the Wii game. where people are just mimicking steps and movements to dance along to a video game, which then gets you into this artificial reality. You're used to being, you're looking to be in an artificial, created place where you express yourself. Right, the device that I'm on right now, where I can see myself in a conversation with 6 other individuals, is a form of artificial intelligence.
In different parts of the country at the same time.
At different parts of the country. The fact that you can go to Google and pull up anything, you can talk to Siri and she'll give you the answer. You got we're being inundated with artificial reality technology or artificial intelligence technology nonstop. So we've been using it. Matter of fact, that's how they've been collecting all the data that goes into all these games on Facebook, all these games on apps that ask you, would you do this? If you did this, would you do that? They're collecting data to build this superstructure where AI, artificial information, artificial intelligence can exist. They're stealing our reality from us.
Right. But that sort of seems to me that that might be some real litigation behind that, right? Because if they're collecting that data and then all of a sudden they're taking your voice and putting your voice out there, I mean, what's to stop them from having your voice say something that you didn't really say? Right.
Well, but Dr. Riley, it's scarier than that. It's scarier than that. Here's what our good friend Jonathan Austin is being confronted with as a teacher. You can go on an AI app and say, write me a paper about Hakim Green.
Yes. Yep.
The AI app will go through the internet, check, make sure it's the Hakim Green you talking about, and write a research paper on Hakim Green with accurate information.
Wow.
Yes, that's true.
And then I can take that paper that the AI app generated, scan it into a Word document, and send it to Jonathan Austin as my research paper on Hakim Green.
And there's no way for Mr. Austin to check that to see whether.
I mean, if I'm the sloppiest student in the world, he can catch me. But if I have any sense at all, and I just go in there after I've done that, I can go in there and just add it, change some words up, flip some things around, format it the way he said format it, and a research paper that should have took me a semester to do in terms of not just the research, but getting the words right, workshop and all of that stuff, making it grammatically correct, all of that's gone. And then I can sit on it and then turn it in at 10:30 at night, or if he says it's got to be the end by 9 p.m. on Friday, it's in.
What that does is make thinking obsolete.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, the larger question is, that's why I love you, Hakim Green, because that's the larger question is, what are they preparing to do when they make thinking obsolete? All of this is to build to that point.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, the one thing that an artist has, right, is one, his creativity, and then he has the licenses and the likenesses to own his own creation, right? But if I take that away from you, right, sort of like what Prince was saying when he put the symbol on his face, right? When he said that, he didn't own his likeness, he didn't own his publishing, and that Warner Music could basically put out his stuff when they get ready. So if I do what Hawk just said and I collect your voice, and then all of a sudden somehow I can manipulate that, now all of a sudden Hawk can die and I can put out music as though this man recorded this, or as though this man is still alive if he became popular. And now all of a sudden, right, I'm benefiting off of this man's creativity. Right? And it may not even be his creativity, because now if I could mimic his voice, right, like they did with Drake, then and this is the technology, then
this happened. Right. This happened already, right? This happened. Somebody put out a Jay-Z verse. Somebody put out a Jay-Z verse, and the internet was all crazy because it was it was advertised as a new Jay-Z song, and it wasn't Jay-Z. And then he had to sue to get it taken down and all of that. So the attempt is being made. The question becomes again, like how, yes, artists, and I can't imagine how this feels for somebody like a Hakim Green that has a long catalog, that is a real artist, or somebody like even you, Unicorn, like with the stuff that you all are doing. Like I can imagine this being really an anxiety building moment. But the scariest thing, right, is getting to the part where everything is artificial. And the truth is the power of an artist is to be able to look into the world and see the things that we can't see and articulate it for us to make us so we understand.
Right. That's exactly right. That's what.
And you got to be in time and space to do that at a high level, I believe.
Yeah, you know that comedian Dave Chappelle says that, right? Dave says that what makes him great is, right, and why he's so natural at it is because he can look at the world and he see things differently that he can make funny, right? And you're right. That's what an artist does, right? So when Hawk thinks about what he thinks about and come up and say them niggas, right? Who would think of that? His mind is like creative to say that, and then he can put that together in such a way that it's like, whoa, that's dope. Right?
Look, I break that down for you though.
Yeah,
Dr. Riley,
please.
They say, what's wrong with hip hop? Y'all niggas. What's wrong with the black? Y'all niggas. What I mean by that is, one of the lessons we got from the Battle of Algiers was that in order for real revolution to take place, you had to get rid of the weakest members of the community because they will be the first to sell it out. The drug dealers, the drug users, the pimps, the prostitutes, hustlers. You had to deal with them first because the man would just target them with trivial, superficial BS, and they would sell out the revolution. So when you see why can't the community progress? And in the beginning of the video, I started with that old classic scene from The Godfather, where they're discussing how they're gonna chop up the proceeds for the drugs and the heroin, and they said we're gonna keep it with the ninjas and the other people because they don't have souls. They just animals. They don't have souls, right? So it's like in my mind, while we talk about snitching, if you out there doing that dirt, who are you actually doing it for? Who's the beneficiary of the proceeds of the work of the death and destruction you push? Let's try to wake up y'all ninjas. So.
That's dope. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. But see, that's what I'm saying. But see, Dr. Riley, I think that's your point. Your point is if we can undermine through artificial intelligence Hakim's keen sense of culture and just put it out into the world, because it's him in time and space, being from East Orange, New Jersey, having the kind of reality that he's having that allows him to say what he's saying. Right. So if
for your own device, now you don't have Hakim Green. You have a Hakim Green image saying what you want.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so for me,
and then if we successful with that, right, Chris? If we successful on that level, then what's to stop us from manipulating Malcolm's voice? What's to stop us from manipulating Farrakhan's voice? What's to stop us from manipulating any voice, right, from a social justice perspective that we want, right? If we don't do something about it, because as Hawk just said, you no longer have Hawk. You now have something else, but it's not him.
A reasonable facsimile of Hakim Green.
Yeah. When you look at, I'm sorry.
They're telling everybody to dance for a chicken bone right now.
Yep.
And I think the scariest thing for an artist, right? For me, it's different when you start talking about print media, things like that I'm interested in. Because you wrote what you wrote, you said what you said, that's it. But when you start talking about like artists Like, again, can you imagine being Jay-Z and you on the people are calling your phone like, oh man, Hov, you dropped a new song? And he like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's you. And then you hear it and it's so close to being you that you think you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he told B Dot, I think he told B Dot, like, I thought it was like it sounded so much like me that I'm like, did somebody leak something that I didn't like? How did this happen?
Wow.
That's wild.
So here's the other question I got for Unicorn and you, Hawk. So let me ask this question, right? Is there because the mayor says this all the time, right? We talk about, on the mayor's forum, we had this conversation about, Newark doesn't really have a nightlife, right? So does the youth have, I don't know if I want to say a club, but do they have a space where they can go and be artistic and be creative? Like you were talking about that guy who called this thing today socially and had 1,000 people all of a sudden just show up in Washington Park, right? Is there something where these young people can go and maybe Unicorn, you can speak to that?
Yeah.
Is there a place like that?
Not necessarily. I think a lot of the gathering and the social fun that the young people do is kind of left up to them to. You got young kids that like organize their own events, but a lot of the time this stuff is really left up to them. There's not like one place that I know in the city that the youngest that I know is like, yo, we all gonna be here. This is the spot to go to, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not gonna say there's no places. There are spaces they can go to, but like somewhere that's dedicated primarily for them, I don't think so. It's just whatever space that, let's just say some high schoolers are like, we want to throw a party on Saturday, right? They have to go look, find a space, hope the space will allow them to come there, and then they just invite everybody and they come there at their own risk. Maybe they hire security, maybe they don't. Maybe they can serve liquor there if they sneak it in, maybe not. There's not really anything organized or set up for them. It's really just, and it's been like this like since I was in high school. The kids pretty much organize on their own. Some of them are really good at organizing. Some of them are less good at organizing, but they organize on their own and they just go out and do what they do. For the adults, we got a couple bars, got a couple bars here and there that everybody goes to. But for the most part, most people who want to have a good time in Newark probably leave Newark and go other places to other events, or we have the few events that are organized by our city that we know about every year, like that Lincoln Park Festival. We know about that every year, 24 hours a piece. We know to go there every year. But maybe Branchbrook Park skating rink is probably a hub that the youth go to. But if you don't know how to skate, then that's not really for you. So,
and let me tell you, not knowing how to skate can be terrible for a young person when you get on skates and you don't have no darn business on a skate. I'm just gonna let y'all know. I'm not saying that I'm traumatized. I'm just saying that if you should get on skates and the wrong music and you get excited about behind the wrong music, you could in fact take what some people may describe as a hot L, and it can be very bad. It can be very bad for one's self-esteem. It could be a video that could go viral of you flipping over a stand, knocking over nachos and hot dog. It could be very bad. I'm just saying it could go bad.
Tell them you went to a breakdance move. That's all.
Yeah, and I literally break. I'm talking about break for real.
Yeah, you got to pop up and say I meant to do that.
Yeah,
right.
But to answer your question, it's like a yes and a no thing, but I'm leaning more towards a no. There's not anything that I would say is predominant. No.
So Hawk, we had Fahimi Shakur on, and one of the things she was talking about was the renovation of Symphony Hall, right? And she said Terrence Ballroom is done now. That's already been renovated, right?
Nice.
And so in my mind, right, because I can remember 30 years ago, and I remember when the mayor was in college and he would come back up, folks they had space up in Symphony Hall where you could go in, and Lauryn Hill was up there. the Fugees was up there, right? Everybody was up there because nobody had money for studio time and nothing, but everybody was being creative, man. You know what I mean? Everybody was creating, and so, you know, and she
Yeah,
was
but Dr. Riley, they couldn't do this.
no, they couldn't do this. That's right.
What we
But
doing right now was
yeah,
a technical impossibility. If COVID had hit 30 years ago, it would have been devastating. If COVID had hit when I was in elementary school, this would have been the worst. That would have been the worst crisis in the worst non-human rights crisis.
It still was, but yeah, the point is having technology to connect us all made it a more bearable experience.
Yeah.
right.
Oh my! If you could have pre the internet, COVID had, bruh.
Right. So I guess, you know, what I'm trying to get at is that if there's no space for young people to be creative, the question is that an opportunity then for somebody to create that, where these young people can go, one, be safe, and then two, be able to create, you know, be able to go there and create the kind of art that you're speaking to, Unicorn, at this moment, with them being able to, you know, take house music and be able to, you know, carry it on from the Newark tradition, right?
Yep.
But if there's no space for that, is there an opportunity for that to be created?
I think there's definitely a huge opportunity for that. I think on a small scale, you know, you have places that have been trying to become like that space, but they're kind of small. Like I said, you know, a couple entrepreneurs, spots on Halsey Street and other spots here and there have been like trying to become a creative hub. I actually had like you said, I had an idea of opening a creative space. You know, I'm probably still working on it actually, but I would like for there to be a hub where the young kids could come to and learn how to produce and take dance lessons and have, you know, some mental health classes, maybe some financial literacy classes, and maybe even learn debate and learn these other skills while also having music lessons and access to film, photography, and those type of, you know, a space where they can go and do that also. So there's a huge opportunity for that, especially in Newark, I think, especially with all the creatives that we do have that are looking for a place to, you know, exercise their artistic muscles.
Because Hawk, I'll tell y'all this. I went to see my niece who's in a program this summer, right, for the Dance Theater of Harlem. And they did something over at the Lincoln Center, right? And there was all of these young girls who are dancers that are in this program. And I've got to tell you, man, I was thoroughly impressed by the art of these young Black dancers, man, right? But that, you know, thank God for this summer program, right, where they could go and be creative and learn from these other older Black dancers, man. And you see these 16-year-olds and you see the talent and skills that they got. But thank God for the Dance Theater of Harlem. Thank God for Alvin Ailey. What I'm saying is when we talk about the culture of hip hop, you know, and if there's no space for that, right? If we don't really have a space for them, then we opening it up for AI to be able to do what they are currently doing.
Well, to your point, Ed, big shout out to the teacher, KRS-One. Big shout out to the Temple of Hip Hop, which is now based at 55 Ludlow Street in the Weekway section of Newark, New Jersey. We'll be opening up doors officially in 2024.
Nice.
Specifically to teach the culture of hip hop.
Nice.
And I know you guys are all familiar with the Trek Center.
Yeah.
That's the location I'm talking about. That's now in the hands of KRS-One and the Temple of Hip Hop. Nice. So that type of programming, very intentionally to transmit and transmit the ethics, the code of hip hop, the official skill set that it takes to be an official MC, DJ, graph artist, fashion design, business, entrepreneurship, tech, everything that we can drape hip hop around will be offered through the Temple of Hip Hop, right there in Newark, New Jersey. Again, Newark, New Jersey, leading the way when it comes to artistic expression and culture.
That's dope. That's dope.
Yep, that's what I'm talking about, Hot. Right? Exactly what you're saying. Because remember, I mean, these corporations have made billions of dollars off of that, right? They've taken the culture of hip hop and made billions of dollars. And I'm saying that information, right, has to be disseminated. And KRS-One is probably one of the leading generals out there right now who can speak to that artistically and intellectually.
But watch this. Look what 4,000 people registered for their library card in Brooklyn just because the Book of Hov went up.
Man, that was amazing, bro.
Yeah.
Just because they put his lyrics on the building, 4,000 people registered for library cards.
And probably never had a library card in their life. Don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Simply because that went up. And so for me, I tease Zaid, Baba Zaid, and Dr. Riley a lot because these two people have had me in bad situations. Two of the worst situations I've been in life as an adult. One person had me interrupt Al Sharpton in the middle of a speech. The other one almost got me shot by the police. I won't say which one did what, but you can just look up and tell who it was by their reaction. Well, who did what? But the beauty of that, right, is
I'm gonna mimic Zaid right now because I don't know which one did what.
Yeah, I ain't gonna say who did what. I ain't gonna say when. I ain't gonna say who did which one. But what I would say is that for me, learning how to be in the media space, how to ask questions, how to think about things critically, how to be in those kinds of spaces, how to talk, how to dress, how to look, how to be in a room but not really in the room. All these kinds of strategies that I learned, like what activism really means versus what it's not, all those sorts of things. I think that the genealogy of one generation to the other and being able to pass that along, I think not only challenges AI's ability to take over people's thinking, but also makes the art significantly better. So I watched an interview recently KRS-One did with a young lady, this really little girl. Like I bet she's probably like 10 or 11, but she keeps going viral for catching these like amazing interviews.
Yeah,
and
right. Oh yeah, I love that little girl. She's dope.
What's her name?
And she's like 10 or 11, Dr. Riley. It's like the most amazing thing in the world. And so, but somehow or another, she ends up in front of like the biggest acts in the world, and she gets to interview them.
Nice. Wow. Nice.
So she's interviewed Jay-Z. She interviewed 50 Cent. She's interviewed KRS-One. She's interviewed all these different people, right? I don't even know how this little girl got in there, but I think that once you get one, everybody's like, no, I want the little baby to interview me.
But she on her way, bro. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She got a chance to ask 50 Cent who was his favorite rapper. He said it was KRS-One. And then she got a chance to tell KRS-One that 50 Cent said that you was his favorite rapper.
Wow.
And what KRS-One's response was listening to young people makes elders faster in the elder space. And listening to elders makes a young person faster in the young person space.
Wow.
And if we both listen to each other, we can move double fast in our particular spheres of influence.
Right.
And I think that a lot of the concerns, and I can see it in my own life for sure, because trust me, I think stupid thoughts and I want to make stupid posts. And then I think, what'll happen if I do it? And the kinds of text messages and phone calls that I might receive, should I make said posts and do said thing? And you know what it makes me not do? Not hit send.
Yeah.
Don't want to do. I go, you know what? Nope.
I think that's real for all of us, right? We all have, thought about, responding to something and then had to think about, what's the cost of that, right?
For sure. I don't want Larry Ham on my phone.
Yeah.
Talking bad to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I think Hakim Green will wisely defer to Dhoruba Ben Wahad. He will not defer to me. When I get that phone call, it's not going to be good. Hell, I'm getting it. Right? So I think that those genealogies and having that kind of like support of elders, I think could alleviate some of the fears we have about which way culture is going.
So here's the thing, right? So you know how everywhere we go, right? Everybody sort of says what an influence Zaid has had on them, right? That Zaid has had some sort of effect on a number of people who've come through Newark, I would say, in the last 20 years from a conscious perspective,
Mm-hmm.
because the sister Shakur, who was on last week, she said the same thing, that the influence that Zaid had. And me and Zaid had that experience today. We ran into a guy. We went to a meeting, and the guy said he knew Zaid, and Zaid said, "Man, I don't know him." But then he had to think about it. They said, "Oh yeah, he was in the march I was in, right?" So as he's talking about hitting sin, right? We all got to think about that, right? Like even in the real world, when you out there. So the question I'm asking you, Hak, because I always hear you talk about, you being, around the anti-violence movement, how it influenced 24 Hours of Peace. What do you think your life would have been like, Hak, had not that happened for you?
Whoa, shoot, man. Well, I was going through some things at that point in my life, and they said KRS-One says the greatest form of wealth is charity. So the spirit, the act of giving for free, like freely giving, has opened up this door to success. So when you see 24 Hours of Peace, it stands for something, it means something, it's grown to be something that started from the very humble act of wanting to support the give back, wanting to be a part of the give back. I have Blue Note, the whole Madism thing happened, music career happened, entertainment career happened. You get to the other side of it, you fall off, you got to pick yourself up. And in the process of picking yourself up, instead of being down and out, bitter, angry, thinking about what coulda, woulda, shoulda, you give. You see the young folks coming up behind you, and you're like, well, what can I do for them that was done for me that can help them propel themselves? And in the spirit of that, it helped propel me in another chapter of my life. So KRS is the one what Chris just detailed with the young lady who interviewed Chris. And he said, when old people learn from young people, it makes them faster with old people. When young people learn from old people, it makes them faster. That's what happened to me. It was me trying to give back to young people. Young people ended up giving me something back. Without even knowing that's what was going on, because that's not the reason why we did what we did. It just so happens the blessing of life is that.
I mean, look, you didn't ask me, but I'll say it. Like, I think as somebody whose both biological parents have passed away, and as an only child biologically, to have the extended family of a Hakim Green, of a Ed Riley, of a Jonathan Alston, all of you have made it so that I understand what my value in the world is. There's a viral video right now of a young man. He's got an semi-automatic weapon. He's about to break into a house. The brother is hard body. The brother is at home. He's about to break into the house with a semi-automatic weapon. The older brother gets the drop on him. And instead of killing him, he tells him to put the gun down. He asks him, "Why are you doing this?" And basically the kid breaks down immediately. And it's like, my brother, I'm going through a lot of stuff at home. My brother, this, that, and third. He like, put the gun down, come in the house, let me talk to you. We can fix this some other way. It don't have to be like this. And although I wasn't in that particular place at that particular time, the amount of terrible decisions that I could have made, and if that infrastructure wasn't around me, it's impossible to say what that would even be. I don't even want to think about it. I have at least 40 stupid thoughts a day that I do not actualize in the real world because I don't want the smoke that come after.
Right. And then what?
I'm talking about 40 different thoughts per day that make where I want to go on the internet, say or do or think or go live or do something stupid. Or maybe not even on the internet. How about in real life, in real time? And I'm like, huh?
My crazy thoughts ain't gonna happen on the internet. They're gonna happen in live.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's my point. But see, that's my point. Real G's move in silence, like lasagna. Yeah, I don't want that trouble. I don't feel like it.
Bars.
So,
Because I'm gonna get a text from Ed Riley that says, "Chris, I'm very disappointed. Meet me for dinner at so and so place." I don't feel like. I don't want. I'd rather not.
that would happen. So Unicorn, let me ask you the same question.
Yeah. Very similar thing. You know, when I was coming up, it was when the whole gang culture was just getting started around here. And a lot of the people that I looked up to, I never had no big brother. I never had no real authoritative figure to be like, listen, this is how you make decisions in life. I really looked up to people that were just in the community looking like they were having fun, the gang members, the drug dealers, et cetera, et cetera. When I got to high school, Jonathan Austin is the one who pulled me to the side. Like, listen, you might want to try. He didn't even really ask me. He put me in detention. But he knew that I like to argue so much that if he put me in detention in the debate room, by default, I was going to start participating. I didn't even know I was in the debate practice. Just he recognized my personality and he saw the direction that I was heading in. But he also saw the potential and he put me in the position to like literally change the trajectory of my life. Because when I joined debate and I literally left the streets for the first time to go on these debate tournaments and have intelligent conversation and use my critical thinking skills and do research for the first time in my life and really be around people that were higher than me in intelligence and higher than me socially. And I started seeing different things just from being with Mr. Austin. And it's like having that type of influence around you, just the smallest little influence can literally change the trajectory of your life. Things that I used to think was cool, you know, I used to think it was cool if I saw somebody shooting in broad day, like, yeah, I can't wait to do that. All of a sudden that became asinine to me because I used critical thinking and I understood impact. I understood opportunity cost. I understood risk analysis. You know what I'm saying? The words that I'm saying are things that Jonathan Austin taught me. I would have never even known these words to apply them to real life had somebody not pulled me by my collar like, listen, bro, try this out. Try doing something a different way. Just that little opportunity. You know what I'm saying? So I agree. Have the older generation, having that can help you move better in your youth and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? Now that I'm older, when I listen to what the younger kids have to tell me and what they're going through, I can move better in my space as well. It's really about having that mentorship and being able to look up or down and see an opportunity that somebody may be overlooking. And even if you could open that window a little bit for them or put them in that door or place them in that room or around that person or around that opportunity, that makes a big difference. I can literally say that Mr. Austin was probably the only authoritative figure that I've ever listened to in my teenage years. Wow. He was the only voice that mattered, whether he approved of something or disapproved of something. You know what I'm saying? And that really
only is a big word.
Yeah, but that changed the way I move. That the knowledge that he put in my brain has helped me up until this very day. My critical thinking is on a whole nother level because I joined, you know, debate and I learned the stuff that I learned through even researching certain topics helped me understand politics and understand the world and understand world views and look at that thing from different views in a whole nother way. Somebody could literally do something that I totally disagree with today, and I can step back and be like, I wonder why they're feeling the way they're feeling and doing what they're doing, and let me try to understand them to try to resolve this type of issue that we're having right now, as opposed to me just saying, you know what, I disagree with them, I think I'm right, and I want to react in that manner. And I think, you know, those type of influences make for a better world, better communication throughout everybody.
Is Mr. Austin the oldest male you know?
He is not the oldest male I know, but he was the most involved, aside from maybe aside from my father, Mr. Austin.
Okay. The reason I say that is, Chris, do you remember you telling me that you didn't know anybody my age? Remember that?
Straight up.
Yeah.
No, and I don't mean that, and I didn't mean. I swear I didn't mean that in any sort of being derogatory in any meaningful way. I'm saying that right now,
Hakim,
at the time when I said that to you, I didn't have even the men in my family did not live past the age that you were at the time. So I'd only in my entire life, I've only known one 80-year-old man.
Not that I'm 80.
Not that you're 80, but but put it in context, right? Like you've done security for Minister Farrakhan, and you've yet to write this book, but it's cool, it's fine, it's fine. But anyway, to be able to share with me what that experience is like, and what those kinds of things mean, like in real time, like James Baldwin has this quote, paraphrasing, where he says, "You think that you have the only pain, that your pain is unique to any pain that has ever existed in history of the world," and then you read. Well, all scriptures aren't in books. Sometimes they're in the lives of people you know.
That's right.
So the first time I had been in a room with a bunch of dignitaries, you took me in one. The first time I had being in a real studio, it was because you brought me there, right? When I'm like, my mother was in the Black Panther Party. She dies when I'm 18 years old. Being able to contextualize what all that means without Zaid pointing me in direction and telling me what that all means, I'd be lost. That wouldn't necessarily matter to me. And then who would I be? Because I'm from the inner city of Baltimore. Hello. It's not exactly Beverly Hills. And
but you know the one thing I notice particularly about you two brothers is that y'all are like chameleons, right? Y'all adapt to the environment y'all are in, right? Like I'm hearing that, right? And it, because when you hear Unicorn say when Jonathan put him in detention and he was in that room, the one thing he knew is that because of his mouth, because of his debating abilities, that was a natural environment for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The thing about you, Chris, is that it was natural for you to go into those environments and absorb what you were around, right? And it shaped you. It became a part of you, and it helped make you who you are today. And you can hear that when I listen to you, and I can hear that when I listen to Unicorn. I can hear the level of respect. I can hear the level of what he learned and how it impacted his life. And obviously, Chris, when most people hear you, I mean, people are impacted by what you read, right? A lot of the books you read, because you can articulate those books, right? And even the mayor enjoys when you on, right? Because you all those books that we read 30 years ago, it seems like you just recently read them, and we
I did.
Mind. Yeah, that's true, right? So when you talk about them, it's like, oh shit, I read that book, and it's like, wow, we back in that conversation. And so when I hear Unicorn and he talks about Jonathan Austin and debate, he's talking about somebody I've known for over 30 years, right? And I can see the impact in this young man, and I'm like, wow, this is impressive to me. But the question is then how do we? And not we, but I'm saying you two now. How do you two now then take that level of impact that had come upon you? How do y'all take that now and then capsulize it so that y'all can distribute that to those other out of control young brothers and sisters, particularly like that video you said with a guy who got this gun getting ready to go do something, and then he confronts a guy who got the drop on him. Because that happens in the real world.
Yeah. So no, he was going to break in the brother's house, and the brother whose house it was came out and had his gun first.
Right.
And instead of killing this young man, he asked him, "What is he doing it for?" And the kid breaks down so almost immediately. And I would say that when you ask that question, Dr. Riley, it's strange because the older I get, the more I need y'all. So
explain that.
So a lot of times you get people who teach you how to start, but nobody really teach you how to finish. So there's a part of me that is a good educator, a good teacher, a good coach, and all that. And then Jonathan Austin says, you know there's different learning styles, right? So this presentation that you're about to do, you know that's cool, but there's kids who learn differently. Do you have anything textile for the kids who learn with materials? Do you got anything visible for the visible learners? Or is it everything going to be in this one style? Because you're going to get a few of the kids, but you're going to lose a few of them because of that. And I'm like, oh, that'll keep me up another day. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Or, man, this y'all going to get. Do you know, you taught me how to shake hands, Ed Riley.
Mm.
Do you remember that in the studio? I shook your hand. You like, that's not Chris. You got it.
Mm.
You don't remember that?
Nah.
No, that's not a thing that would come into my consciousness until somebody corrects it.
Right.
Because we shake hands like this.
Wow.
That with the firm, that's you. I appreciate that, Principal Kafala. That means a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But that's real when you like those sorts of things.
But what Capella is saying is the same thing the mayor says, right? You know, when you on and you start talking about them books, you remind all of us. You know what I mean?
That was the first thing I noticed when you started speaking, to be honest. I'm like, yo, he
Yeah.
got a lot of sources.
Yeah, like, and the thing is that was, I got that from my mom. The wisdom of elders don't go. You need it more. The older you get, the more you need it.
Yeah.
That's why what I said. I was talking about hip hop recently. I was saying, no, I'm glad that Nas is 50 and rapping still at a high level, because his experiences of what he's seeing now at 50, I'm gonna need that in 12 years. No, like, for real.
And vice versa, you know, the young heads up under you are gonna need you more.
Yeah.
Right. And the reality is, I think about somebody like, you know, Gregory or Minister Farrakhan or people like that. The people who I'm listening to are going to that person for advice. And so the truth is that you've known Jonathan Austin since he was a college student, right?
No, when he graduated from college.
Right. So you've known him like so him fresh out of college. So all of the experiences that you had that he got from you, he's been able to pass on to all of us. I met you because of him. So you think about the genealogy, like, we've gotten to a place, and I think that it's a thing that we should be celebrating in all of our cultural manifestations, is the genealogies that we get from our interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
Not just the broader macro African thing, but the interpersonal relationships. If you look at the four of us sitting on this screen, the thing we have in common is Jonathan Austin.
Yeah.
So if you put Jonathan Austin in the center of that, okay, so he was mentored by Ed Riley. He then mentored Chris and Unicorn, and then we can draw, that's a branch of reality. And the thing is, Ed Riley, is that's a part of who you are, because you get to talk about Bashir. Think about all the kids that Bashir has mentored.
Mm-hmm.
All those people fall under your, you know, under those things. And I think that the thing is, for those of us who are interested in Black people moving forward, one thing that I wish we did better,
mm-hmm.
and I think we should, and this is a real highlight. One thing that I wish we did better was celebrating the different genealogies of our own greatness. You really can't tell, Ed Riley, the impact you've made on Black America until you start thinking about the people you mentored and how many people they have taught.
Mm-hmm.
So you might think, we have so much to do, but if you take your life and put it here and then branch it out like that, and wrote it down and say, here are all these people. And if you think about all the kids at Weekway who have been impacted by Mr. Akinyele, and he says he is one of the major reasons he is who he is because of you. And I would say that if you look at Zaid Muhammad, I'm sure there are lots of activists who would say, if it wasn't for Baba Zaid, I wouldn't have it. Those are the kinds of things that I think as a community we need to do a better job of celebrating. And that's what hip hop is really all about.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, I absolutely agree.
Mic dropper, Mr. Randall.
Huh? What'd you say, Bob?
Mic dropper, right? That's a mic dropper, Mr. Randall.
Indeed, I would agree with you, and you know, but I would have to say about my own life, I think that Jonathan met me at the right time. I think Bashir met me at the right time, right? And you think about um, where I'm at today, and compares to how they met me. They met me at the right time of my life, because the truth is I didn't want nothing to do with them, but because they were nice people, they were good young men. Jonathan at 22 years old, and you think about he's in his 50s now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you can just imagine meeting somebody.
And Hakim and were in high school.
Huh?
Bashir, Hakim, and TJ, they were in high school.
Yeah.
And they started popping up at my teachers that I used to do at the library.
Yeah. So you gotta, so they met Zaid at the right time, right?
Right.
You just happened to have met us at the right time, because if y'all met us at the other time, well, y'all might not have them stories to tell. Because
yeah, but somebody, but that's the point. But somebody did what you did for all of us for you.
Somebody did.
So and that's how genealogies are built. And unfortunately, I think as a community, because the negative in our community is so sensationalized, we tend to forget all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like we blast, like I'm from Baltimore. We got 30 people shot, 16 injured, 4 died. That's on the news all the time. But if you think about the genealogy, like those kinds of people, like if and when the Lord called Jonathan Austin home, it's going to be hard to find a church to fit that funeral.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have 2, 3, 4 services for that joke. And I'm not talking about the size of his casket either, because that's something else. I wouldn't tell that kind of joke.
Yeah.
And certainly not behind his back when he's not here to finish
it. Said it. I'm telling them you said it.
But I'm saying, that's real. Those things are real, man.
No, you're absolutely right. I think that you're right. And Jonathan's still running the people to this day, that he is taught, who, and when I look at them and say, wow, Mr. Austin was your teacher, and even now, Zaidi and I was in his space today, and
That's
you
right.
could just, you walk around his space, even though he wasn't in that building, his spirit was still in that building.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in Science High School, and that and even when I was talking to that principal who only been there 2 years, and I told her Jonathan been there 30 years, right? That's hard for her to believe. She's the principal, been there for 2, but Jonathan been the only job that man has ever had was Science High School. Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the only job. So if he had to do a resume, right? Imagine that. My resume would be long. His would be very short. But he would write at least 50 pages about the lives he's sown into, right?
For sure.
But it would only be one job. Isn't that something?
But I think some people don't have jobs, they have callings.
That's true. That's true.
And I think it's real, because like when people say that, when I have people that say they look up to me, that's crazy to me. Because I was sitting in a room recently.
Oh, Chris,
Dr. Riley, you know it's trifling. They got me sitting there at the table with Larry Ham and Baba Zaid, and they asking me stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna have nothing to say. I'm here to help with the slideshow, and do whatever production thing is necessary. And I want to sit in the corner and be quiet.
But that's not true. You saw what Principal Capelli just said, right. and we'll put it back up. Look at it. He says, I enjoy when Chris is on too. Brilliant young brother.
That's right.
See,
that's crazy to think.
Yeah,
that's crazy to think.
But I told you, even a man, when you on with us and you mention them books, I'm trying to tell you, we sharp everybody.
It's sharp everybody.
Right. And we all, and when you quote them books, because you said, you just read them, but I'm like,
just read it. Yeah.
You bring it all back to us, man. But listen, man, we got to close the show out over time. Right, let's thank everybody, man. First off, let me just share that the congressman, he couldn't get on. He had some unforeseen issues with his schedule today, so he couldn't get on. But we want to say that, indeed, the Payne report will be back next month. So big up to the congressman.
Wow.
So, but we want to definitely thank, our sister Crystal, who came on first. She was dropping the knowledge for real about, Black birth and all of that, man, was real strong. So let's thank the other folks, Zaid, who came on, man.
And so we had Crystal, Professor Khalfani, incredible.
brother,
You got to check out Bound No More, Essex County College, up until August 16th. Up until August 16th, Essex County College, Africana Institute, right? And it's incredible conversation that we had with these young men. And Hakim fell off, but this is a unicorn. I'm glad he brought you to us. We're proud of what you're doing. That's really, really great stuff. We're glad you're here. We need you. Chris, I'm glad you popped in. Because you just kind of pop in every now and then. But this
Jonathan Austin told me that I needed to come fill in for him, so at 7:00, so I said I would.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is your space. This is your home, little brother. So you gotta.
Anytime. Look, when y'all ask me to do stuff, if there's any way possible, I'm always gonna do it.
Right on.
And I can't believe Unicorn is taking credit for all the hard work that Baltimore put in, and now they're cashing in. It's really tragic, and I really can't believe we're promoting this in this way. And I guess I'm just gonna have to go in the corner and cry about it.
Well, listen, man, we gotta close the show out, but Unicorn, we're gonna give you some last words, man. Anything you want to say?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm gonna keep it a buck. This is my first time really tuning into this broadcast right here, and I wanna thank all of y'all for having me on here. And I do want to check in with this more often because I feel like this is some deep and this is some sharp conversation. If any other time y'all having this, send me the information. I'll tune into whatever conversation y'all have, and if I'm knowledgeable about anything, I'll chime in with it, man. I'm happy to have met all of y'all, and hopefully we keep in contact and keep building from here. City of Newark, super proud of the city, super proud of all the the great people that we have here who care about the city enough to take 3 hours out their day to just sit here and chit chat and talk about topics and issues that will hopefully have a better effect to those who are listening and those who are in charge of making change and who can affect change. Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. I'm glad I tapped in. I don't really get to sit down and have that much sharp intellectual conversation and debate that often as I'm running around making music and just playing around having fun these days. You feel me? So this was actually good for the brain, good for the soul. I love to see Black excellence. You feel me? This was a great showcase of that. Chris, man, I'm impressed with you. Like, even when I was walking down the street just listening to y'all on mute and you started citing books and you were talking about we talking about critical race theory or something like that with criminal.
Oh, the Africana legal study. Yeah,
there you go.
Whole nother level coming. That's right.
When I get spare time, I'm gonna go look into that now, simply because you brought that up in an eloquent type of way.
He put the link in the chat, and my emails and stuff is attached to all politics and local stuff. So just reach out to me.
Word, facts. And if anybody that's on here listening, man, you feel me? Tap in with the youth. Newark, New Jersey is doing great things in film, cinema, music, all of the arts. We're doing great things political-wise. We're doing great things community-wise. And I want y'all to keep having faith in the city because I've visually seen the city going upwards from back when I was in high school to I look up downtown Newark and everything ain't burnt no more. You feel me? Things are being built. And I feel like the community needs to take more. We need to try to be more actively involved in the building that we're doing here so we can have equity in that. You know what I'm saying? But all the young folks, man, tap in with me, tap in with these brothers, and whatever we can do to help out, I'm here. You're Unicorn.
Straight in.
All right.
Shame.
Well, we here every Friday, my brother, from 6 to 9, man. And with different guests and different hosts and so forth. So the mayor, he's on third Friday. You think we drop science, you should come check him out.
I'm gonna check it.
Third Friday, man, it's called the Mayor's Forum. And he ain't talking like you normally hear him. He talking like Raz Baraka. You know what I mean? So if you want to check that out. So Chris, let's give you some last words and then we'll let Zaid close the show out.
Man, I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy I could add something to the conversation. I deeply enjoy all of you. I count you all as family, so I'm just really appreciated that I was able to be here with y'all and for y'all. And at least now I can be with y'all in peace and don't have to go to jail or interrupt any pioneering Black leaders. But you know, it's good. It's all right.
All right, Zaid, I'm gonna give you the last word, brother.
Rest in peace, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, a beacon of dignity for many. And rest in peace, Dr. Mutulu Shakur. There's a
Ashe.
memorial for him on Sunday, live on YouTube. I'll put that up in a second too. Right? Long live Dr. Mutulu Shakur. We carry on the tradition. We'll see y'all next week, and you don't stop.
Yep, there it is, y'all. We'll see y'all next week on All Politics Are Local. As my brother Zaid said, we'll catch him where, Zaid?
Whirlwind.
In the whirlwind.
I like that.